call. I'll talk to you later.
Hi, Mamata. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Mamata. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
got onto the link that Bulbul sent.
Good afternoon again. And I can see so many live here as well as on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining in on this warm, balmy Saturday afternoon. Rather, not too warm here in Gurgaon, where I am right now. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you, my fellow panelists. It is such an amazing joy every year when we do an event of this sort. It always brings together an entire family as well as all our benefactors, all the people who have been or who want to be a part of our family eventually. So, on behalf of our entire ISTI family, I would like a very warm welcome to you and thank you so much for joining us. December has always been a month of cheer when we celebrate the year gone by and get ready to welcome the new year with all of its promises. Although this year has been pretty difficult for the entire world, we lost a lot. But come to think of it, we also were able to focus on certain things which we had sort of forgotten. Time with our families, counting the little joys of life, the blessings of our elders, the smiles of our children. So we at ISDI decided that notwithstanding these unprecedented times, we will celebrate. And given that we are ISTI School of Design and Innovation, today we will be celebrating all things design and innovation. My name is Mohameda Sanan, and I lead strategic projects and executive education initiatives in our ecosystem. And I shall be your host for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as they say in one of the popular airlines, fasten your seatbelts and get ready to delve into the future of design, which, for all practical purposes, is the future of all mankind. So let me start by giving you a quick glimpse of what we have planned for you. Can we have the presentation, please? So this is the lineup for the entire event. Of course, we will start with a keynote address by our President and Chairperson, Dr. Indu Shahani. After that, we have another very favorite person of our ecosystem, Ms. Shanu Bhatia, who will come and she will do a session on her design journey and, of course, her thoughts on the various career opportunities available in design. The second session of the evening is again a very, very interesting, exciting opportunity for all of us to know the future of design education. And from who else but the stalwarts of the industry, leading design practitioners, design educators, and influencers. Then we get into a fireside chat with Professor Bulbul Chaudhary and Mr. Robin Zadara, who will make it very, very clear to us and who will explain to us why this is the absolute right time to look at blended years of getting a degree or education or higher education by exploring a combination of world-class Indian colleges with the added exposure of an international school. And finally, we will come to the most anticipated session of the event, which is a completely hands-on workshop by our most favorite professor, Jay, who will give us the tips and tricks of acing a portfolio evaluation by putting together an absolutely amazing portfolio. So, are we ready to roll? Couple of house announcements. We are very, very eager to hear from you. We are very eager to get your questions, your take on things. The question answer panel is on. So please feel free to put your questions there. As and when we get the opportunity in between the sessions, we will be taking up the questions as we go along. So without further ado, let's begin. It is my absolute privilege and honor to invite our President and Chair, Dr. Indu Shahani, to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Shahani has been one of the foremost educationists of the country who has been instrumental in paving the pathways for 21st century education in our country. She has been a board member of the University Grants Commission at the national level and is also the person who introduced the IB board to the Indian schooling system. She has been the only Indian to have served on the board of governors of IB, where she was the vice chair. Dr. Shahani has extensive experience in spearheading an education institution, having been the principal of HR College of Commerce and Economics in Mumbai for more than 25 years. For her exceptional service in the field of education, she was also appointed as the Sheriff of Mumbai for 2 consecutive terms. Dr. Indu Shahani is our guiding mentor and the inspiration behind all that we do here at the ISTE School of Design and Innovation. Ma'am, do share your thoughts on why creative careers matter, especially today, and what do you think are the skills of the future?
Thank you so much. Thank you. And wow, my gosh, I can see the magic of design already. 510 students. I don't think I ever got so many students in any of my commerce classes in the 40 years that I was in the commerce education. Oh, wow, this is great. But let me tell you something more. These are not just 510 students. You know what they are? They are, I always had so much belief and trust in these young generation, this young generation. I always fought with teachers, always fought with everyone to say, my generation, this generation Z is the best. And here I go. I just read this morning, Kenny Michelle, who's the president of Snap Inc., okay, tells you that this is the most tolerant, active, and diverse in history. The characteristics of these young people that you have inside. So teachers, you tighten your seat belts because you are going to be facing a generation that is absolutely outstanding. The characteristics are, and I have experienced this, that's why I can tell you this, taking on social responsibility. I remember a young boy in my school, in my college earlier, who came up to me and said, why should the dumb and deaf only make candles? And I said, yes, what else can they do? And he comes back to me and tells me, I'm going to start a courier service. And he started Miracle Couriers. And today Amazon has taken over Miracle Couriers. And today all the dumb and the deaf are being appointed by that. See the social responsibility. He was an 18-year-old young boy. So first characteristics of these students that we've got right in front of us, it's better we know them. So we do bring the real magic for them. Building the community, celebrating individuality, see how individual, and I actually identified this only when I realized that design school doing this. So celebrating individuality, nurturing friendships and how well they nurture these friendships, and communicating in new ways. And I'm learning some of these new ways in which they are communicating. But let's say what's happened now. I have to say that for me, the crisis of COVID has been an absolute boon. When would I have had this technology? 500, and let me see the latest, 510 are just 1 foot away from me, all in the front row, and I can see them and I can talk to them. Can you believe this happening otherwise? And getting on to this, how exciting. So the digital economy is booming. Businesses are on a creative path campaign. And of course, brand marketing is growing even more. But I'm going to tell you something that actually happened in the industry because I sit on that board. This is a story of Colgate. I'm sure all of you use Colgate toothpaste or have heard of it, know about it, and so on. This, when I was a part of the first meeting of the Colgate, when the pandemic had just started, they actually showed how difficult it was going to be to able to sell because the factories were not closing because of the lockdown. They had no supply chain. How were they going to carry this on? 6 months later, I sit on the second quarter board meeting and the tables have turned. How did they turn the tables? They were one of the first foremost FMCGs which actually turned around and went into the profit curve. And I asked the managing director, please tell me what happened. I'm so excited to know what's happened. He said, first of all, we sat together and started spotting opportunities. We said, we are not going to let the pandemic get us down. Spotting the opportunities, seeing who our unmet customers were. And I said, what is that you're looking at? He said, most people did not now want a toothpaste for strong teeth. They wanted for a good smile, right? So the whitening toothpaste became a big seller. And then what they did was very quickly, this is where you can see how what is going to be playing a role. Keep that in your mind. I'm only going to tell you later what changed everything for Colgate. And then they introduced not only the whitening to invisible white, as they call it, but invisible white instant. And then the next was you needed to keep yourself free from germs, not just your hands, your mouth, your everything. And they introduced the Ved Shakti spray. And that went, and you've seen those beautiful ads. So that was unmet customers, spotting opportunities. Then Crow creating breakthrough through products and services. And you've seen how well they came out with body lotions, they came out with sanitizers, they did so much different. But more than that, what did they work with? They worked with their people, with their organizations, cared for their people, and made them more innovative and agile. And I asked the managing director, Mr. Ram Raghavan, one word that made all this difference. And young people, do I have to spell it out for you? Design. Design made all the difference. Even today, he picks up his notes on design thinking and says, this is what made all the difference. And I'm so happy that today they were able to deliver new products to the market. They were able to reduce the cost per the operation. They were able to build a better customer experience, and they were able to increase their employment engagement. And I'm happy to see that design gets the credit. And definitely, I would say that all these years that I developed bankers, I developed chartered accountants, I was missing something. And I'm glad that 7 years back, we started ISDI. And today, I have young Jay Ranjit here in front of me. And he is teaching me because I learned from his classes more than I studied my BCom, MCom, my PhDs. And it's so amazing to get into fashion design class, to get into a product design. How are they creating prototypes and they're being delivered, and the 3D printing? I mean, what is all this? And not to forget the communication design. Look at that. You know, I'm so glad Shanu's here because this beautiful logo that's right behind me has been created by her. And till this day, I feel very, very, very proud of you, Shanu. Thank you so much for doing this for us. So as you can see, that the BA, BComs, BScs, engineering without a creativity touch, all these are today not really the jobs of the future. They are not going to be the future. The future today is going to be in the creative careers, and we all know this. And how do these creative careers move towards? Where do we go far from here? And that's when I used to always feel so frustrated in my colleges. And I used to see such bright students sitting in front of me. And I would say, where are we going? Am I producing? What am I producing out of this BA, BComs, BScs? A 19th century curriculum being taught by the 20th century teachers to the 21st century students, and my students who are so brilliant. How do we do it? And then when we introduce design, I can't tell you the difference. let me tell you just 5 things that I personally noticed right from in the design school, and I saw the difference. Every day they were learning new things. My first learning for me was new things being taught every day, being learned every day by the students. That was something that did not happen. Very often I still meet a Uday Kotak, or I will meet a Ronnie Screwvala, and he said, ma'am, you taught us secretarial practice, we've forgotten it. Why didn't you teach us design thinking then? And I said, well, it's you can always come and join our executive programs, and Momita would be only too happy to welcome them. All right. Second thing, I saw a growth in these 7 years. And what a growth, and what fantastic students coming in. Ever growing demand for design. And you're going to see that, as I told you, if a Colgate company turns around because of design, and that too during the COVID, during pandemic, you can imagine what's going to happen in the new normal. Another thing, I saw the difference when students join a commerce, liberal arts, other program and join a design or a creative careers program. The difference is they learn problem solving because they understand empathy and they learn problem solving. And another thing, critical thinking, creative thinking in their very first year. You should see our first year studies and you should meet our Professor Pratna Patil and you should see how they bring in creative thinking. I keep sending my Commerce College students into this and say, sit down and just learn some creative critical thinking. Then what it allows is continuous learning. Design never stops. It never stops. The learning never stops. The schools close, the colleges close, but learning never stopped. And finally, a designer who starts a steel company, a designer who goes into a cement company. I mean, design shows you any several paths that you could go into. So you do see all these different things that are happening. Now, before I come on to telling you about, but let me give you a hint here. WHO, the World Health Organization, declared their pandemic around the first week of March. I think it was around the 13th of March. And very soon following that, the WEF, the World Economic Forum, which is today the global body which brings together the best minds together. And what did they declare? They too declared a pandemic. They too declared an emergency, but they declared an emergency of reskilling. And it's not just today, it's if you are skilled, it's not enough. You need to reskill, that's not too enough. You need to upskill. And I think that's been the philosophy of our institutions to see that our students move from their skilling that they bring from their schools to the reskilling that they get, and then they go into the stage of upskilling. And as we know today, definitely there are many, many jobs that will demand a lot of different skills. 48% of the jobs that had the earlier skills are going to be out of commission, and you're going to be getting more skills. But the best thing I like is the book that was written by Toffler, Alvin Toffler, Future Shock. And he said it in that going ahead, I didn't know that in the 1970s when the book was released, he's going to be knowing about the pandemic. He said, going ahead, more than capability, you will need copability. And how true this is today, that I am so happy to see that all my design students currently in my institution, those who have alumni, and those who are aspiring to come in are ready for the copability, because we would not be here today in the Zoom. We were the first to start virtual education even before the IIMs and IITs had started. And so I'm so thrilled about this, that there are new jobs, new techniques, and new skills that you will be developing in design. And Forbes, very, very well-known 8 job skills they are talking about now. I'm going to read those job skills and please match them to which creative career it matches. And the answer will be very simple. Keep all your creative careers in front of you. You cannot match it with the BA BComs and the BACs, because you will see the very first skill that is required is tech savviness. And it goes out of the window in many programs. So let me tell you those 8 job skills. Tech savviness, creativity and innovation, which is the lifeblood of design. Data literacy, without knowing this, you would have never been able to even determine what career you want to take up. Critical thinking, as I told you, you step into the design institution and you start learning it. Digital and coding skills, that's something that you do, it's without, today it's going to be the new language of the world. Leadership, and how does leadership develop? It's amazing how leadership develops. A young man, and I'm going to give this from our own school, the design school, young man goes on a rural visit, finds that people with diabetes have to walk miles to get an insulin. Why don't they have an insulin? Because they don't have a refrigerating machine or a cooler where they can cool to the temperature that insulin has to be cool for diabetes. And so he creates Coolit. And today he's been incubating with IIT Delhi. But this is it. How did he show his leadership? I think that was the design thinking that created him, and his emotional intelligence. So the next one is emotional intelligence. And of course, you have to commit to a lifelong learning. That is going to be a lesson for all of us. Post-pandemic, the new normal has taught me that I can't stop. I have to keep learning. So let me get back to you. As you can see, you can relate these to all your creative careers. They fit in, all the 8 of them fit in: tech savviness, creativity, innovation, data literacy, critical thinking, digital and coding skills, leadership, emotional intelligence, and committing to a lifelong learning. Now, before I go ahead and I tell you what are the jobs of the creative careers that you will be getting into, I've just randomly written down all of them: graphic designers, user experience designers, photographers, interior designers, multimedia artists, art direction, advertising and promotion management, logo creators, because I've got one right in front of me, fashion designers, film and video editors. So you can see all these will have the skills that you're learning in the curriculum. But before I end, I'm just going to show you something that we did very recently. We called, let's have the slide so I can explain. We called the top industry people, the top industry. And we covered all the industries, right? This was a leadership series that we just organized. And you can see the date, it's October the 16th. And it's skilling talent for Industry 4.0. Is education ready for Industry 4.0? That's what we wanted to ask them. And what do you want my students to know and have so that they can become ready? So here, look at these people who are there. Renuka Iyer came in from General Mills, a foods company. Google, do I need to explain? Google is God. Bani Kaur was there representing us. Then you had Rohit Kumar from Kellogg's. Today, Kellogg's is leading in its breakfast cereal organization. Kapil Gupta came from Qualcomm, again an IT, strongly IT related company. Mohan Ramswamy came from Rubik's, the data sciences. And then, of course, we had Mr. Bhattacharya from Tata Capital. Look at the range. We covered it all. We wanted to see all of you who are looking at us. What is it that you are seeing and you want in my students? And so you can see the range that is there. And we did a rapid fire question with them. Please carefully listen to this rapid fire question and see what they had to say. Here we go.
You know, if there's one single quality that you'd look around for your people, what would be that one quality?
Would say resilience. I think navigating ambiguity.
I would say empathy.
I must say it should be agility.
Integrity.
So you can see resilience, navigating ambiguity, empathy, agility, and integrity. And how beautifully it has been said. And all of this, as you can see, form a very, very strong part of design. So let me end by telling you how design changed my life. I think it was only when I had the iPhone, that's when I realized that actually design can change a life. And you could operate from home, you could operate from anywhere you were. They had put in Steve Jobs when he introduced that. I was there sitting live, listening to him introducing, saying that he has put everything together, internet, phone, and you know, the entire works together in one gadget. That's when I really got the I would say the inspiration that design is going to change the world. So finally, I would just like to say thank you so much for being here. And it's a very exciting evening that you've got today. Let me just end by what I felt design is. And maybe every time I come up, I think so differently because it gives me such different colors. It's so magical. Design is more than a feeling. It's analytical leadership. Design is more than a product. It's user experience. Design is more than just a department or a school. It's cross-functional talent. Design is not just a phase. It's continuous iteration. And in short, design for me impacts life. It changes lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Every time I get an opportunity to listen to you, it's a learning experience for me, myself, and it's always such an inspiration. You've encapsulated and summarized the entire Industry 4.0, what the industry is expecting, where the education should go, all of it so crisply and so easy to understand in such a short time. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
For me, design, again, coming from a very traditional, just like ma'am, coming from a very traditional education system, BCom honors, finance, etc., design completely opened my eyes that it's not, and ma'am, absolutely right, it's not one department, it's not one iteration, it is a continuous process which pervades all the different disciplines, all the different, when we look at a corporate, all the different aspects of a corporate organization as well. So thank you. And with that, I would like to extend a very, very warm welcome to somebody who's been a part of our ecosystem, the ISDI journey from day one almost. Ms. Shanu Bhatia is the founder director of Eureka Moment. And of course, she's the lady behind the D in ISDI, right, Shanu? Let me take 2 more minutes to talk about her experience. She is a leading strategic design thinker. And of course, she has been leading Eureka Moment as in the design management space. She has helped shape the design narrative in India through participation as chairperson, National Design Committee of ASSOCHAM, and president of the Mumbai chapter of the Association of Designers of India. She has also been part of eminent national and international design award juries and a speaker at design events. She's on the board of graphic education at the MIT Pune and is associated with ISD Parsons Mumbai as a consultant advisor. Shanu has an unerring ability to provide strategic design thinking, directing projects rare in scale and design opportunity. Constantly questioning convention, she has steered benchmark strategic and design projects, winning prestigious awards. Her design company celebrates versatility and offers clients prolific expertise under one roof. I would like to invite Shanu to talk about her journey in design. What are the different careers in design? You know, the entire design industry is extremely multifaceted, and all of us here, participants, are eager to know what are the different pathways one can take within the design industry. How can we identify specializations? How can we map our own careers and make the right decisions based on our skill set? And of course, new age opportunities, since you are right there spearheading the design revolution in the country. So, Shanu, over to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. It's great to be with friends. I always felt so close to Izdi, Dr. Shahani. She knows she's my favorite, and it's wonderful being here. I've tried to encapsulate a lot of what you've asked me in a presentation. So I'm going to share my screen, and I think let's get started because I'm sure there's a lot of impatience. Let me just put it onto the play mode. I hope it's visible. All right, great. So we've all been at that point in our lives when we have to make that decision, that really important decision that could be a milestone that defines the rest of our lives. So I understand where you all are. And I'm going to start by asking you to think with me. Think about the common theme that is woven through all the headlines that I'm going to now take you through. So put on your thinking caps and let's go. Why did this beauty startup live stream everything inside its store? Beauty Counter is a London-based clean beauty startup. And you can see at the end of the store, there's a recording studio. And they set it up because they wanted to live stream products, they wanted to live stream beauty advice, trial, etc. Next headline, these ingenious masks won't fog up your glasses. Wires from London is a brand that manufactures eyewear. And they realized that the big problem with masks is that your glasses get fogged up. So they came up with this creative solution where a mask can actually be suspended from the frame of the glass, whichever glass you buy. And so it doesn't cover the space from which your hot breath comes over your glasses. This was a neat, nifty solution. This building is actually a brewery in Denmark, and it was designed to be upcycled. It was designed with its end of life in mind at the time of conception. That means that when the building has outlived its use, it doesn't get just, blown apart by a wrecking ball. It actually can be dismantled, taken screw by screw out and rejoined to create a new structure. This website, it's by a bank called Global Lens. And what it does, it allows investors, especially new age investors, to understand where their money is going and whether that money is actually being invested in good causes that are not harming the planet. It makes your money do good. We've often wondered why we need to carry a small phone and try and zoom into documents or have to lug around a large device when it's so inconvenient to do so. So some phone companies are releasing, Oppo is soon going to release a phone that morphs from a phone to a tablet using OLED technology. The coronavirus is anyway viral, but so is misinformation. A new website called Dear Pandemic offers practical science-based advice, which is translated into terms that anyone can understand. And therefore, it actually defies misinformation. And coming to an Indian company, Fractal Inc. Fractal Inc. was brought in by BEST when they realized that the travelers, the commuters are having such a huge problem trying to understand exactly where the bus is. So that entire anxiety about where is the bus, that has been resolved by an app that is actually geared, fitted to communicate with the bus, because obviously the bus is fitted with a device that transmits information about where it is in life, in real life. So what do all these headlines say to you? What is it that holds them all together? Well, the answer is that they all solve problems. They all solve very human problems. They all fit into solutions that are need gaps that people feel that need to be addressed. And that is exactly what design thinking does. So today what I want to do is I want to demystify what is design, what is design thinking, take it out of its conventional trap and show you how wide and broad it is. Stanford University has a model, which I'm sure a lot of you who may have researched what design thinking is about would have come across. And it is in 5 modules. You start with empathy, then you define the problem, you ideate, you prototype, and test. This is my model for design thinking over my 15, 20 years of working with design and creating solutions. You define the purpose, you listen, you hear what is the reason why this is required. You then empathize, observe. Observation is such an important and critical aspect of design. Observe and synthesize your observations into insights. Immerse yourself in the process, deliberate on what the problem is, and then clarify and reframe the problem. It is only when you reframe the problem and its accompanying challenges that you start creating ideas, you start divergent ideas, which can then be eliminated through rounds of iteration into creating designs that can be prototyped, validated, and reviewed. And sometimes you get back to altering the brief to reiterate the design. So design is in itself a very agile process. Design has the potential to solve big problems, as Dr. Shahani also said. It's not just a craft, it's a process. It's not just about how you draw or whether you can animate, it's about the rigor of the process. It's about the depth that you delve into. I always say it's the tail end of the process. It is not the entire process because it can be predictive, it can anticipate change. It is evolutionary and it should be transformational. Speaking of which, I'm sure you're all familiar with Jonathan Ives. When he announced that he is leaving Apple in 2019, what happened? The stocks plummeted. Apple's stock took an $8 billion hit after the news was released that the design chief was exiting the company. People were discussing on media, is it time to sell the stock of this huge company? Why is that? It's because he didn't just design products. What he did is he articulated how people should interact with technology. He made design desirable. He made people care about design. And this is what human-centered design is all about. It's not about a silo where technology has to speak to other technology. It's about how humans will interact with technology. It's how humans will interact with spaces. It's how humans will interact with fashion. And this is what is called human-centered design. Human-centered design is now being taught. It's being taught in universities and schools, such as in ISDI, where you are taught the methods of research. You're taught about discovery and immersion. You're taught about interaction, visual coding, and solving extremely difficult 21st century problems, because human-centered design makes people's lives better. Let me give you an example. This company, Byte, they had a larger purpose. Their larger purpose was that they didn't want plastic to pollute the earth. They recognized that there are millions of tubes of plastic from toothpaste that are going into landfills and they are causing irreparable damage to the earth. And so they came up with BIT. BIT are these little toothpaste tablets that you can chew put into your mouth, drink a sip of water, and they dissolve and they become toothpaste and you can brush your teeth. And so their purpose was fulfilled, which is never ever allowing a single plastic tube to enter a landfill. This is another interesting solution. When disaster strikes, it comes unannounced. And so often we find that people are most unprepared. This Japanese designer took an oil barrel and recognized that the most important aspect of disaster survival is heat. So it was called heat rescue disaster recovery. And what it does is it packs the oil barrel with the components required to create heat. The oil barrel itself becomes a furnace. Wood is provided. The wood can be used to heat water. Therefore, water is provided. The hot water is used to heat food. Therefore, pre-packed food packets are provided. It's used to warm napkins to cleanse yourself. And the entire kit comes together so that people can survive until rescue teams can get to them. You can all just imagine how useful this device is. It's a foot-powered washing machine where electricity is a problem. It really reduces household chores. And this is, again, a solution brought to people through design thinking. So the question is that, it's a question that would be on the minds of students. How do I know if I'm going to be good at design? How do I know if I'm design inclined? These are the things you need to consider. Are you a critical thinker? Do you have the ability to think laterally? Are you a problem solver? Have you at home figured out that, this switch is not working and I'm not able to get, my sound on in that room, and let me see how I can resolve it? Do you have empathy? Can you put yourself in somebody else's shoes? Are you an empathetician? That's a word I just coined. Are you a lifelong learner? Because design is about continuous learning. So if you are, and if you're looking at stepping into a career in design, let me tell you a little bit about tried, tested, and emergent fields in design. Let me start by saying that yesterday's graphic designers are today's UX designers. What we're saying here is that design has evolved. It's become a hybrid industry. There's nothing purist anymore about design because design itself has become a confluence of various skills, crafts, and knowledge. If you look into the imminent future, I'm not talking about 2050s, I'm talking about perhaps a few years down the road and currently, these are possible career options for you. Augmented reality designer. Augmented reality designers will be required in fields such as museum designs, automotive design, medical fields, because what it does is it allows the user to access information that is seamlessly layered onto the physical space. And this is created by, again, the confluence of technology and design and communication. Avatar designers, very interesting space. An avatar designer can actually create a celebrity avatar because celebrities are not always available. And this avatar can represent the celebrity and interact in place of the celebrity and therefore has to have the same facial expressions and gestures as the celebrity to be able to interact in virtual and mixed reality worlds. These areas that would welcome an avatar designer would be in gaming, in retail, and in the media industry. Machine learning. You can't get away from artificial intelligence today. It's just not enough. There's just too much demand for it. How does it help? It replaces mundane tasks that people do. For example, why would a human being have to spend hours and hours of time creating artworks when a machine can be taught how to do it? And therefore, machine learning designers become a very important component across industries such as auto, packaging, healthcare, and legal. Fusion artists. Fusion artists basically combine their knowledge and skill set in art, research, science, and engineering, and they would find career openings in media, museums, and experience design. UI UX is already a big area, And I think all design houses are practicing it because it is the need of the hour. And it allows the designer to build for the user experiences that are digital, such as websites, apps, and interfaces across all sectors. Wearable tech will be a demand because it addresses the needs of fashion, fitness, health, wellness, and aging populations. Strategic design management is an allied industry. It is so critical for the design industry to stay healthy, to have a strategic design management team work along with them, because they are the ones who are able to work on scenarios, presuppose what the client needs, develop solutions, and improve interactions between the designers and their customers. This is required across sectors, finance, banking, and retail. Service designers, their job is very exciting. It is to use their cognitive and creative skills to create points of interaction between the customer and the service provider, thereby making the entire service experience better. It is used today in developing new retail experiences, new product experiences. Packaging designers have always existed, but their new job, the new norm would be to create packaging that is more sensitive to the environment using materials that can be upcycled, that can be recycled, and also sizes that do not create waste in the planet. Experience design is unfortunately linked only to digital spaces, but experience design traverses physical spaces, museums, retail experiences, spaces, even your house is an experience. Phygital and omni-channel experiences will continue to outgrow their demand. I'm not going to go beyond the imminent future, because beyond 2030, there's going to be a whole new normal. The future of design will include neural links and brain implants, uploading and downloading of memories. Who knows what it's going to demand? So let's look into the future that is visible today. But what I do want to say is design is interdisciplinary. It cannot exist in a silo. Right at the center is human-centered design. And if you just look around, human-centered design allows you to create services in visual design, which in itself gives you an opportunity to create brands, typefaces, illustrations, which links to animation, film, sound. Visual design is also about how a design is perceived, symbols, semiotics, and therefore semiotics is linked to products. How is a product designed? What about the colors of a product? How is it perceived? Products are used in spaces. Spaces lead to furniture design, interior spaces. Human-centered design is about how people feel about what they wear, and therefore it includes apparel and fashion management. It's about information architecture, which links to user interface design, user experiences, web design, app design. Apps are digital products. Digital products include mixed reality products, AR, VR, game design, icon design. So as you can see, the world is large. And once you get into the stream of design and understand what it is to deliver a human-centered design, your choices are varied. And as you build your career, what you should keep in mind most often is, am I constantly learning? Am I better today than I was when I started? Are my skills getting better? Is my understanding getting better? Am I able to perceive the larger picture? Can I make a difference? Is my work making an impact? Am I adding value? You need to believe that design can change lives and influence people, because design thinking can really move upstream and be applied to very large problems that are strategic. So the question is, how do you think about a problem? I'd like to tell you a very little bit about my company Eureka Moment, also called UMO. We've branded ourselves or positioned ourselves as a collective that is responsible for making intelligence visible. Our spaces of service are designed for brands, which is strategic. We're visual designers and communication designers. And we also design experiences, which includes digital, UI, UX, spatial, and retail. This is what our website looks like with a drop down on everything that we offer. This is what our physical space looked like before the pandemic. Great fun working together. But let me get back to how do you define a problem? So clients often come to you with what is their immediate problem. ICICI Bank came to us and said, we have a cafeteria and it is 10,000 square feet. And we use it obviously to offer lunch to our employees, but we want you to redesign it because, now it's old and, it just needs a new face, a new look, and it needs to accommodate more people. It needs to accommodate 3,000 people at lunchtime. And so we took this problem and we thought about it. And one of the opportunities that we discovered as a design team was, why would you use a 10,000 square foot space only at lunchtime? Why can't it be a multi-use environment that can be used throughout the day? And so what we created for them was a space that could double up as a cafeteria, but throughout the day it was used for other functions. So we actually created corners, open meeting rooms, closed meeting rooms, spaces that people could gather, have fun, enjoy, test products, discuss problems, and not feel confined because A, the space was so large, and B, we fitted it out with technology. So it was Alexa enabled, it has drop downs screens, it has testing pods, it also has a little museum, and it has outdoor spaces, it has indoor spaces. And it's amazing to see that ICON, as it's called today, ICICI Center of New, is the most desired space. People are actually booking it on an app. They don't want to sit in their cubicles anymore. And this is the power of design thinking. They actually convert it into a party space at night so that they can have their gatherings there. They also came to us and said, we want to design a paperless branch. It's something we want to do because we want to be conscious about the environment. And we thought about that problem and we said, how can we add value as designers? Okay, we can, use materials that are less harmful to the environment, but what else can we do? Why can't we use it as an opportunity to impact the way their customers perceive sensitivity and the environment, how they are sent, how can we change their attitude towards the environment, not just give them a bank. And so we incorporated the idea of banking on a greener future, where we made the bank look anything but like a bank. We surrounded it with an environment, with messages, with greens. We took banking ideas like diversification and we linked it with nature because nature also teaches us about diversity. We taught them about how saving is not about just saving your money, but also about saving the environment, not only about managing assets, but about managing liquid assets like water. And we created a space for them that actually speaks about much more than what they had started with or what they had talked about in their brief. We were then asked to come up with a brand identity for the Piramal Group. And for us, this was again an opportunity to do so much more. If we reframe the problem, we said, why can't we create a brand story that has lasting value? Why just an identity? And so what we did is we actually brought a Bharatnatyam dancer into our office. And we asked her to dance the story of Lord Buddha and how Lord Buddha recognized the misery in the world when he stepped out and he stepped under a Bodhi tree and he received enlightenment and knowledge about how to care and enable care. And in doing so, we actually created the logo, which was an inspiration from the Gyan Mudra, which stands for knowledge, action, and care. And this has really worked well for them because it doesn't matter whether they are into healthcare or whether they're into realty or whether they're into packaging. It's the identity that has a story. And the identity is then spread into there's sub-brands. So branding is a very important aspect of design. It is the face that you can give a company. It is the face that you can give a service. It's the face that you can give a story that carries the legacy of a brand forward. Now I'm going to speak about visitor centers. Visitor centers are also experiences, and they're phygital experiences. So design also includes phygital. What is phygital? It's a confluence of physical and digital, where your physical space becomes an enabler to tell a digital story. So Manipal University came to us and said, we need a space where we can tell our story because our university is spread out too large. And can you create a theater experience where we can call parents and students to come and understand what our brand is about? And of course, we looked at it as an opportunity to attract the best minds. And I'm going to play a short film. I hope everyone's Wi-Fi is working well. This is the experience we created, and this will give you an idea about another space in design that is really exciting.
What is it in life that inspires you? Here we stand. Here I am. This way, please. Now and forever.
The one thing that I would like to gain is practical experience, not just theory. And most importantly, to be able to do something in my life that will be able to change other people's lives.
It's a new world, it's a new start. It's a life with the beating of your heart. New day, it's a new life. I've been waiting for it all my life. New world, new start, new day, new plan. New world, new start, new day, new plan.
Okay, and this one is always exciting for me. This is about ISDI. And the need was to create an identity for an exciting new school of design and innovation. What was so exciting for me was that I was part of the roundtable discussions prior to ISDI being created, where we discussed the potential problems, challenges, and the exciting opportunities that lay ahead. And so when I was offered this project, the way we turned it around and thought about it was, it's not about designing an identity, it's about creating a story and bridging cultures, because this is about the idea of two metropolitan cities with a business as well as a design mindset who can look into the future and how they can create a confluence that works. So we were talking about who are we designing for across New York, across Mumbai, and how are we celebrating the differences and what brings people together, what are the cultural traits, what are the the language traits, what is the lingo of the time, what is it about these two buzzing spaces that we can bring together to bridge the gap. And we talked about creating an ISDN movement and creating an ISDN language where we create a Poptimus brand, which is youth driven, it's fun, it's active, it's playful, it's expressive. And most of all, it invites points of view. It's designed for a school that's open-minded. It's designed for a school that invites debate, invites discourse and dialogue, not something that's pedantic and it's old and traditional. It's about discourse, it's about exchanges. And so we took a very clean font and all we did was split it to make the D into a face. And the idea was that this face will be the face of communication. It'll be the face of dialogue. It'll be the face of discourse and discussion. And it's going to be the motif of the school, and it's timeless, and it can it can represent the school globally. It just heightens the brand to a global standard. And we worked with ISD on the launch, on actually creating the collateral, on creating, the interface design. And that was a really exciting space. And so design can do all that. Design can actually work hand in hand with the business problem, and it can actually help align the business strategy with the brand idea. I'm going to now take you into a space of a quick glance into how design can solve workspace environments. So before Geo was launched, they came to us and they said that they have too many people from around the world who are actually working with them on campus. And these people are transiting. They're coming for one day, they're working for a day, they're leaving. So our job was to look at creating an environment that, first of all, conveys what Geo is, and also what also creates a flexible environment for the people who are coming and going. And so what we created was obviously also the physical spaces, the open offices, but we also created this very important module which is called a hot desk. And we designed it so that it goes into a corner, it doesn't occupy space, and each one can be pulled out and it becomes a desk. You just plug in your computer and you start working. And it's funny that they loved it a lot. In fact, I was told that they ordered 200 of them. And it's funny that today with the pandemic, this has become, something that is required across the board by most workspaces where flexible working is the norm. I'm going to talk to you now a little bit about digital branding. So we were retained by India's largest law firm, and we worked for 1 year with them. They're a very respectable firm called Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. And when you think of law, you think about reams of paper and contracts. But here's a law firm led by a very forward-thinking man, Cyril Schroff, and his idea is, how can I make my brand digital? How can we build relationships in a digital-first world? And sometimes you're fortunate to be able to work with people who are so forward-thinking. And this was therefore about bridging the gap and creating a brand that really is very modern. So what we did with them, what we just completed, what's going live literally as we speak, is we created all their digital touch points. Communication design is such an important aspect of design. And communication design, again, is so broad. It has so many buckets within it. So within communication design is website design, creating the user interface, the user journey, the user experience, defining who the user is, their persona, what are they looking for, how fast can they reach the information they're looking for, how do you create uniqueness on a website, how do you allow people to access what they want to, taking all their newsletters and making them work digitally, making them interactive, giving them a face, making them recognizable, working on their social media channels, developing and designing an app with their tech team. So here's where design needs to work very closely with technology. CAM is one of those firms that is so forward thinking, they have a tech team within their company. We work with the tech team to develop an app that allowed lawyers to access information at the touch of a button. We worked on designing their intranet so that their entire company had access to the latest information. And we worked on creating digital films for them. So, yes, design also extends into films and music and sound. Most important is we worked with them on creating a strategy. So, strategic branding is about being able to help a company recognize what they are different at, what makes them different from everybody else who claims to offer the same service. And for us, through all our experience working with them through workshops and interviews, we discovered that their difference is being ahead of the curve. And this is what is being played out today as they go out into the media space and into interactions with their clients. So I'd like to now just talk about a little bit about myself as well. So having studied in NID, having studied communication, exhibition design, space design, I find that I'm always restless and I want to embrace solutions that allow me to execute with perfection. And with that, we also, my husband and me, we also created a brand called Amazing, which is furniture. We created a website. We've created beautiful furniture because we believe.
Shanu, hi. Shanu, sorry to interrupt, but your voice has suddenly dropped. Can you see if there's a mic issue?
Oh, is it? I'm so sorry. Is it still a problem?
Little, you were quite audible a while back, but last, I think the 2 slides the voice just dropped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now better. Yeah, now perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. I've just
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks, no problem. So I'll just wrap this up soon now. But just to say that when you're good, when you have confidence, when you have creative confidence, don't let anything stop you. And so not only do we have a service company, we also have a brand where we create what we believe is excellent furniture, excellence in furniture, where we marry materials and styles to create contemporary furniture. And why not? I think the market needs it. So let me get to the end of the presentation by talking about what design is. Design is essentially figuring out the right questions to ask. It's a broad field. It needs to be challenged because design thinking is deeply human. You need to believe in and speak about what matters the most to you. For example, as a designer, you can think big. For example, how do we in our country develop better healthcare? How can we help control population? How can we design affordable shelters? How can we include seniors in design solutions? How can we make education better, change, supplementary? How can we make it something that children enjoy? And I'd like to end this presentation with a film that I love. It's by Apple. Apple is a design oriented company that we all know has tasted so much success because design is at the center of what they do. Let me play it for you. I hope everyone's net allows the streaming to be seamless. Stay tuned. Thank you. That's what I have for you.
Thank you so much, Shanu, for that wonderfully enlightening experience into the world of design. Thank you for joining us. Without much ado, let me invite the moderator for the next session, who is our very own dynamic visionary co-founder, Mr. Siddharth Shani. Siddharth will be moderating the next panel, wherein we have industry educators, design educators, as well as design practitioners. Over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you, Momita and Shanu. Thank you so much for a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Great to see you. And 10 years and going strong, the SD brand created by you and built by all the wonderful team members you have seen here today. So Shanu, thank you very much and pleasure seeing you after so many days. Thank you. So to the next phase of this wonderful afternoon, it is my honor and privilege to have Professor Pradyumna Vyas with us. He's the former director of NID, and may I say one of the longest serving directors of NID, and of course the chairperson of our academic council. We have with us Mr. Pratap Bose. Heartiest congratulations. I just heard on the chatter that the Nexon has won an award this afternoon. So heartiest congratulations and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
We have with us Abhishek Gupta, who is a educator par excellence and a career coach and the founder of High School Moms. And of course to my special and most favorite, Dr. Amrita Das. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Dr. Das, if you remember, many years ago, you were one of the first counselors to encourage us to get on our journey for design education. So thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Enormous pleasure. Thank you. And visiting ISDI was indeed an eye-opener, and I haven't stopped talking about it.
Great. So I'm also going to request the audience to put their questions in the box, because I know many of you have been messaging us with specific questions. And I'm going to open the discussion today with Professor Vyas. Design today is the most sought after skill. And, what would be your message to our young aspirants who are, confused between picking up design versus a more traditional approach to their higher education?
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth, for inviting me. And it's indeed pleasure to be part of this panel. And I always feel very great coming to ISDI and interacting with the students. So thank you once again. Just to tell the aspiring students and parents is that the design education, its history is exactly 101 years. In 1919, Bauhaus School of Design started in Germany, and till 71, or maybe I would say 80s, there were only two design schools in our country. One was NID, of course, it started in 1961. Another one was IIT Mumbai. It was 1969 or 70 or so. And last 15, 16 years, suddenly we see that so many design schools have started coming in. There must be some reason why suddenly after technology and management, design schools started coming in. Somewhere I think both economic and social development, they started realizing that design is playing a very crucial role. And we need a human resource of that nature who will have skills of designing. And I'll tell you what the skills which it's really looking into and why it is becoming a very, very popular now. So when manufacturing was the focus, streamlining manufacturing, the engineering became very predominantly, and India started producing almost like 1.6 million engineers every year, means 16 lakhs. And then afterwards, when selling market started opening up, the management education started booming up. Then they realized that just marketing and just engineering is not going to give you a competitive edge. And that's why the designer, which is design education, which is the major differentiator, I think started coming in. And what is the design education if you really look into? It is really harnessing the creative potential of the young people. It is really taking forward That, you see, in engineering education, when exams are there, there is a fixed answer is there. Physics, there is a fixed answer is there, and there you are moving towards that. But in design, there is no fixed answer. So you're really the design education is nurturing to deal with ambiguity. And just to make a point that we are in the VUCA world, and this VUCA term, which is coming out as the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And all these aspects which VUCA world talks about, the fixed answers are not there. It is in a chaotic situation, which pandemic we are already going through. And to deal with ambiguity, in this situation, I think the design education certainly is taking front seat. And now coming to India, I think coming to India, first of all, it's a young country, it's a coming economy. Pratap, who's the eminent designer, now making Tata Motors is a global brand now. Miss, I feel so proud. Actually, just half an hour ago, we were in the CIA Design Excellence Award, and their 2 vehicles got award, and I felt so proud. And which Pratap is just turning around the company with the design strategies which is happening. We will have to hear from him that how to design is turning around the economic, social, environmental. Now sustainable development goals are coming up, those pressures are there. Again, the answers are not there, and that's why I would say design education is really coming in a great demand. Now I tell you, people think about design is beautification. Design is something to do with aesthetics. And the parents many times have this, what are the future our students are going to have? And I want to tell you is that one of our professor at NID used to always talk about there are 250 sectors which require design approach. And this morning in CIA Design Summit, when we were discussing, and they said that in insurance company, you need designer. In financial activities where you have an interaction design, you need designers. So designers are not going only into creative field, but they are getting into management, they are getting into financial services, they are getting into administration. Everyone is thinking about that these guys can look into ambiguity, and that's why we need to have designers. And mind you, I'm telling you, 5 years from now, most of the departments of science, technologies, humanities, healthcare, agriculture are going to have designers. So the generation which is there, who is looking for design profession, we were not so lucky that time because people were not really understanding importance of design. But you guys, I think the future is just infinite for you to play around. And that's why I feel that this is the shift which has happened from technology to management to design. Siddharth, I hope I have been able to explain that.
Thank you, Professor. And I'm just going to draw in Pratap here, because Pratap, you are one of the early movers. When design was still very unconventional, you've picked it. Not only have you excelled at it, but you're living the dream for many of our students who want to be automobile designers. What made you pick design as a educational choice?
You know, a lot of people ask Sachin Tendulkar how he started in cricket, and he picked up a bat when he was 4. So I picked up a pencil when I was 4. That's all I can say. But of course, the comparison ends there. You know, always, like Pradumna said, you know, the emphasis on becoming an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer was very, very high. You know, when I was undergoing that schooling age. In fact, if I see in my year who graduated from school, only me, I became a designer and another girl became an architect. That was it. Everyone else is a doctor, lawyer, finance person, banker, you name it, you know. But I'm sure the situation today, as Pradumna just mentioned, the number of design schools, education, you know, avenues that have opened up, I'm sure that number is very, very different in a school today, you know, people wanting to go into a creative industry. But, you know, coming to Pradumna's point and the point you just made, the way I looked at design, especially in Tata Motors, is to make it a business function. you know, again, Pradyumna is absolutely right. The amount of ambiguity there is in companies today, you would be surprised actually. We are a $20 billion company, but we are as confused and as unsure of the future as anyone else. And this is when the company looks towards the design department to bring 2 or 3 stories together. There's of course a financial story, that goes without saying. We are a business. There's a technology story, and then there's a human story. And design is one of the only functions in a company which actually brings it all together. The finance guy will give you his projections for 5 years. The technology people will show you a technology roadmap. But what does it actually mean to a customer and a consumer is something only a design team is able to visualize. So I would just add to Pradyumna's point that 2 things should happen in education. Since we are talking about it on an education platform, 2 things should happen. One is, in design education, there should be a very, very strong understanding of finance, marketing, and technology, because these are the 3 people you will be talking to in your companies. And the other way around, in the IIMs and the other business schools and the IITs, there must be modules on design. Siddharth, in my early part of my career in the company, when you have a smaller voice, let me put it that way, marketing people were taking decisions on design. And you can imagine how I felt, after 5 years in NID, 2 years in RCA, some marketing guy feels, no, I think, red is the better color and this should be the shape and that should be the form. That's what you will encounter when you start your career. So people who had no grounding in design at all in terms of an education will tell you what will or won't sell. It's like the opposite. If me from design went into the finance team and told them, I think your projections are wrong, it's as unthinkable. But in design, unfortunately, everyone's got an opinion. So to try and manage those views, it's very important to be able to talk to different parts of the company in their language. We save 100 rupees here. How does it get us 1,000 rupees in the market? You have to be able to break it down to that level. And I think design education, therefore, should, of course, enlarge and deepen. But the same has to happen on the technology, marketing, business, finance side. I don't know of many colleges or many courses in IIM where they actually get a design, a design education, or at least an exposure to design. So that's one thing I would say. So yes, cars have always been my love. That's the artistic side. But in the situation and position I am in today, 90% of, I think, my working day goes in conversations not about design at all. They deeply impact design, but they're not about design. So this is one thing I think, students should be prepared for. They should be prepared for a journey that you don't do design throughout your 30 or 40-year career. You start as a designer, but if you want to grow, you need to expand your understanding about other business areas. Good design is good business. How many of us know what business really means? What pays for design in a company? How do you go and press those buttons? These are very, very important. So, yeah, like I said, Pradyumna has been very dismissive. They are one of the real pioneers to establish a field where there was no real demand. And we are literally following in their footsteps. So absolutely. I have a lot to thank, people like Pradyumna who I still remember his ever-ready torch, to go into Union Carbide, design a torch with a glow-in-the-dark switch. I mean, that kind of thinking, that kind of depth is something which paved the way for the rest of us. So today we can go into a company and, like Pradyumna said, 250 different sectors. You don't have to explain design anymore. And I think that's the key. So for parents and students who are watching this, the future is what you want it to be in design, and if you can embrace it in all its dimensions, then you have, sky is literally the limit.
And I think those are very valuable points, especially about the multidisciplinarity and the impact that design has. But moving away a little bit from the world of design, business, to the world of schools, Dr. Das, it's still a nascent phase in design education for India, where children who want to pick either a creative career, design, fine art, visual arts, filmmaking, still need a lot of encouragement. How can counselors, art teachers across the schools support this movement?
That's a very important question. First, I'd like to say that the 21st century has driven in or brought in a ubiquitous design-oriented culture globally. Now, this is being recognized by school boards and schools. So many schools are offering design subjects. So you have art, you have graphics, you have fashion design. So these are subjects on offer by the boards. There are also a lot of clubs, art and design clubs, which are really useful. Students participate in that, participate in workshops. Schools are more open about students visiting design schools for courses, or design schools conducting workshops like you're doing and informing the students. So there's much more awareness about it. Then, for instance, we also have participation not just in workshops, but in events. So for the last 11 years, we have an event wherein we invite artists to send paintings on different themes. And the best paintings are selected for our desk calendar. More and more students are participating. More and more schools are encouraging this. So much so that this year we had 125 schools participate from across India, Bangladesh, and Middle East. So the awareness has grown. The strategic power of design mojo, the magic of design, is actually making a difference in driving everything from product appeal to services to the wow experience. Now, because there's a demand for designers or people trained in design, more and more parents are accepting this as not just something which should be a hobby, but something which can come center stage as a career. So the market demand for designers has grown in each and every country. We, for instance, have in-house designers. So organizations either have in-house designers or they get consultants. So this growth in demand and the surety of great jobs is something that we also discuss with students and parents, and that makes them so much more comfortable. What is more, design education helps to build employability skills. And these employability skills are universal across the board. No matter what career you may move in for later, these skills of creative thinking, design thinking leads to empathy, to cognitive skills. All of this is, in fact, encouraging students to go in for design education because they realize the value of this. They also get to see the world in its different hues and perspectives. They develop entrepreneurial skills, aesthetic outlook. So the multitude of employability skills is also a huge value addition of design education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Das. And just picking up on your last point around parents supporting children, my question to Abhishek, who is quite the influencer amongst the parental community while they're helping their children pick courses, is how are you seeing the trend for creative education and the acceptance of creative education within the parental community?
All right. Thank you, Siddharth. Okay, the first thing before answering your question, I need to tell you this thing. I am traveling right now. I'm sitting in a hotel.
Yes.
And it is a leading 5-star. The moment I logged on to my call, I realized that this is not designed for virtual meetings. I have 3 lights behind me, none right in front of me. So we still have that desk, which is meant to be written on, but not a desk which is meant to be spoken on a virtual camera. Having said that, before I answer your question, I want to emphasize the fact that as a counselor myself, uh, last 8-9 months has been pretty disruptive for all of us, and not because of COVID, but because of digitization. Right now, this digitization will lead to four things. It will lead to dematerialization, which is nothing but relates to designing. All your physical spaces will go out of the window. Real estate companies will struggle. Virtual spaces will come up. Maybe Zoom, what we are enjoying right now, is not the great place to, not the greatest of the design, and we might have something better tomorrow. Demonetization, democratization. How can design become accessible, and definitely the disruption. Now, coming to your question, see, parents, unfortunately, in India, we never had a design thinking culture. We never had one. I really liked when Pradyumna said that, from engineering to management to design, the world is now shifting. Design thinking per se has never evolved in a parent's first choice of career. The first choice of career has always been those traditional careers: engineering, medicine, CACS, and that's it, right? I mean, there is a book of mine which is getting published pretty soon. It is called Ready for the Future. There are two careers that I talk about. One is called psychology, and one is called designing. And believe you me, designing has a lot to do with psychology as well. I think parents need to wake up. It is a wake-up call for the parents. Till now, when counselors like us or people like all of here in the educator fraternity, we used to say that, hey, future careers will be different. The future was distant. All of a sudden, 9 months, the curve has shifted and the future is right here, right? Nobody thought that the teachers will pick up technology so well that the school education will go online. Nobody ever thought that. Nobody thought that colleges will go online. So parents need to wake up. They need to understand that the expectations parents set for their children should be about happiness followed by money. And happiness could come for somebody into automobile designing like Pratap, or could come into cricket with Tendulkar, right? Second thing is that we have to stop as parents, making all other careers but not designing as the epitome of success, right? And unfortunately, this is because in schools, when we talk about design, we talk about product designing. We never talk about human-centric designing. For us, if you ask any kid or any parent what is designing, they will say maybe apparel designing, automobile designing, interior designing. It's so product-centric designing. They don't talk about human-centric approach. And I think parents need to wake up, because design is the future. With everything getting digitized, you will see touchless screens, workplace changing, houses have become offices, and offices are not existing. So parents need to wake up.
Fantastic. Thank you for that perspective, and looking forward to your book. My first round of questions are over, so I'm going to actually bring in some of the questions from the students. So the first question that I see is, can someone tell me the difference between art and design? I think that's a very interesting question. And Pratap, I see you nodding your head if you want to take a stab at that. Or Abhishek, go ahead, go for it if you would like to.
All right. So it's Pratap. I'm sorry, I'm not a designer, Pratap, but I like to barge in here, and apologies for doing that.
Please, please.
So very simply, I forgot the name, but of the gentleman who has asked it. Very simply, as an artist, I might just scribble on a paper, and it might be good or bad for you, but it is an art for me, right? And that's why you do not call an interior designer as interior artist. You call him as designer, right? As a designer, you are here to solve a problem. So if you are not able to understand your customers or clients' requirement or your organizational needs, and you are designing something, it is art, it is not design. Design is supposed to solve a real problem in the real world, making it more easy, affordable, innovative, and acceptable, right? And that's the basic difference. And that's why you see we call it an interior designer, an automobile designer, and communication designer, a brand designer, a UI UX designer. We do not call them artists. So the fundamental difference is, if you're doing something for yourself, you're an artist. If you're doing something for the society at large, you're a designer.
Pratap, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I think every designer needs to be and is an artist, but every artist isn't a designer. I think that's a very fundamental, in two lines. Because yes, there's definitely this other aspect, for someone else, designing to solve problems for someone else. So while design has an artistic side to it, it's not the only thing. Whereas art can exist in itself, but believe me, a lot of artists use very clever communication design to get to their customers.
Yes, true. There are overlaps for both.
Yeah.
And I know people who were great painters who then transitioned into design.
Yeah.
And you have graphic artists who are graphic designers. So there is a sense of a connect or a dovetailing of the two. Very, very often.
There is definitely that overlap. And like I said, you can't be a designer without an artistic side.
Absolutely.
But you can be a designer without you can be an artist without a designer, hat.
Absolutely, yes.
So, but like I said, both exist in the world as they should. But Abhishek's point of, designing for someone, for a problem solving or creating, something which has a commercial outcome. I think that's where the slight difference is, between art and design.
Thank you very much. Professor Vyas, I'm going to point this question to you because this is from Muskan. She says, what should I look at when choosing a design school?
You see, let us get into the design education first, that how much a school is allowing you to think independently. Just to let you know that there is no teaching in design school. It's a learning platform. It provides you the platform to nurture your ability. As I said, that you are harnessing the creative potential, which the institute, you go there, look around, see what kind of labs are there, what kind of things which students are doing, how much freedom for expressing your points are there. So here in design schools, basically the school is nurturing to make you independent thinker. And that aspect, when you look in schools, you'll find that there are some schools which are having that kind of pedagogy to make you a thinker who can have their own point of view, who can navigate the ambiguous situation to deal with. And these are the design processes when you go through the curriculum, what kind of multidisciplinary approaches are there, what kind of elective courses which have been offered, and how faculty, visiting faculty who are interacting with you, all those aspects are there for choosing the design institution. And also the placement, that what kind of placement with the senior students are doing, what kind of alumni base is there, that gives you actually a good understanding about the school to join actually.
And in addition to placement, the industry connect, because it is the industry connect that enables you to structure your courses, which enables you to do projects, consultancy projects, which have an impact on the teaching learning process.
Just to add one thing, it is not only the job, because in design education, more and more people are setting up startups because they know that they can deal with it. They know that they are connected with either social sector or industrial sector, and that confidence is there that they set up a design office or they set up a kind of enterprise. And more I am seeing that the students who are coming out from the design field are able to deal with, navigate their own design offices or even enterprises.
No, that's quite correct. And, we've been very lucky at ISD being in the heart of Mumbai, having access to all the design labs, and a lot of our faculty are from industry teaching our students. This question is again related to It's a bit of a blue sky question, so I'm going to first point it to Pratap, and then everyone can jump in. Is what opportunities do you see emerging post-COVID for a designer?
Yeah, I think the post-COVID world is, as Abhishek mentioned, it's a very different world from going into COVID. I mean, I can tell you this myself. The last 7 or 8 months, as you know, we have a global design presence in three countries, 180 designers. How do you make 180 designers work as one team? And that's been incredible. So we've had 3 studios. So from 3 studios, we've gone into technically 180 studios because everyone's house became a studio. And we still have to develop a car, in our case, which is a very, very complex product, right from the sketch phase to releasing data for tooling. And I've mentioned this before, the development of any automotive product is about between 800 to 1200 crores. So we are not talking about small money. So at any stage, if you get it wrong, there's really a huge financial burden of that. So for example, Siddharth, we used many crazy techniques. For example, color clearances from our board. How do you do that on a digital platform? Everyone's screen is set to a different color calibration. Someone is seeing it on an iPad, someone is seeing it on their phone, someone is watching it, seeing it on a big screen. So we had to actually physically mail color plaques to our board members to make those recommendations. How do you judge the quality of leather? How do you feel the softness of a seat upholstery? All this business does not stop because the world has stopped.
Also, sorry, I find that there's going to be an increasing digital avatar or a digital connect to every element of design. So, for instance, UI, UX, graphics, animation, the 3D immersive experience, it is coming in with whether it's architecture or product or fashion. This has become a central aspect of it, the digital platforms and the digital persona of design. So I think students would need to understand this technology. For instance, digital marketing has overtaken the traditional forms of marketing in so many creative ways. So I think this is something which we need to keep in mind in design education, the fast-paced changes that are happening in tandem with the changes of technology.
So, we also further to add to Dr. Das' statement, we need to understand that any kind of technological disruption, right? Whether because of an event or without an event. I mean, this technological disruption that we're talking about, there was an event in time you can point to that it's COVID. It will lead to certain sorts of democratization of technology, right? So, for example, till the time there was no Instagram or YouTube, you had to be a Khan or a Kapoor to become an actor or a singer or somebody, right? And all of a sudden, this technology made everybody an actor or a singer. Similarly, the way the virtual curve or the online curve has shifted, now technology will be in the hands of each and every kid. They do not need to get access to an expensive studio to start their entrepreneurship. I mean, with platforms like Fiverr, Freelancer, if you have it in you and if you have the ability to learn it and execute it only from a computer laptop, you are an entrepreneur in itself. You can start off right away. I mean, most of the students who are listening to us, possibly if they join a school like ISD, what I like in your brand name, it's not a design school. It says it's a design school and an innovation school, right? When you have to innovate for the future, that's the kind of designing we are looking at. We are not looking at changing of a color or a shape. That's styling. Designing is something which is way different than styling. So my sense is that all the students who are prospective students of ISD, while you are learning certain great tools and techniques and nuances of designing and innovation at ISD, you have an opportunity where you can actually go and create your own account on Freelancer and possibly earn and use that as your self project. In the design school itself, you can work with the larger brands.
Yes, That's so true, because my message for students in the last few years has been, don't think of yourself as the artists and designers and writers and scientists and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. You're the artists and designers of today because you have access to cutting edge learning tools. And ISTI is providing it online. You have so many online courses which you've taken to schools, which can launch students with that potential. And I personally know of students who have designed a number of products and have started earning from it. So that they can be that artist, the designer of today and not tomorrow. And I think if we can look at it that way, then the path towards a successful career will be fast forwarded.
Correct. And I think one important question that, Abhishek, based on what you said, and I'm going to ask Professor Vyas to come in here, what is the difference between design and innovation? And when I am picking my course, how should I really make sure that a school is helping me ready for the future? Sir, you're on mute. I'll just request.
All right. Good question, Siddharth, by student. You see, this innovation is becoming a buzzword. Innovation-led economy. Innovation is the key. And time and again, we see that whether it is policymaker or bureaucrats and all, people are just talking about innovation. What is innovation? Innovation could be, it's a breakthrough innovation where something you have done, eureka, technological breakthrough or some such kind of thing, or incremental innovation where you have found something to be better than what it was yesterday, or you are bringing some kind of emotional aspect into it, and that's an emotional innovation where designers are very well equipped to deal with how to really make it try to possess product, service, or system. So the innovations are happening various ways. But what design is doing to this innovation? The design is the process by which these innovative ideas are transformed into product, service, or system. And this is what I think, that it is a process, it's a science. It is not that, okay, the designer has to be like, we are talking about art and design or other thing. It is not intuitive, it is a process centric. And that is what we are talking about. When you go to design school, you have been taught to a certain process, learn the process, design process, to come out with the innovative idea into a product service system. Now the context comes, whether you are designing it for healthcare thing or whether you are designing it for the jewelry thing. So all those aspects will change, where somewhere aesthetics become very important, somewhere function becomes very important, somewhere ergonomics become furniture designing very important. All these scientific ways will be taught. It is not the design school is only teaching you the colors and the sketching or something. It is really getting into a lot of scientific ways by which you can make decision, and the decision making process to move in an ambiguous future which we are talking about to definite solution. And usually we always say that design education, when you go through, you minimize the risk. And that's why industries are taking more and more designers, because these guys, they go through a definite process and they know that if you are going through a design process, your product, service, or systems are not going to fail in the market. More or less, you have already, with multidisciplinary approach, you have already checked it time and again that what I am doing is right. And that is the way I think design profession is growing, because you are trying to get into a definite answer which is very contextual and which certainly going to succeed. So that is the way I think I would say that innovation is handled with the design process to a successful product, service, and system.
That's so true. I would also like to add here that I have found that awareness of ground reality is very important. As all of you have said, people-centeredness and being a possibility thinker. And that can only happen if you understand people and the ground realities. That leads to, or that expedites innovation.
Can I, Siddharth, if the panel doesn't mind, can I just give one very immediate example of innovation?
Please.
I think they'll find it interesting, and so will the students. You know, Abhishek is sitting in this hotel. As he entered the room, he would have seen his glasses would be covered or packed in a plastic. The toilet would have a band around it, so you know it's clean. So untouched by someone else. That little paper tab on his glass or on the toilet would have given him an impression of
Safety, cleanliness.
of safety, cleanliness, all of that in these particular times. So coming back to Pradumna's point on innovation, I'll just give a small example. Whatever digital processes we've used in our digital showroom, booking the car, all of that, finally someone has to go to a physical showroom and drive away in a physical car, right? We don't sell him a computer animation of a car. So our marketing team was struggling with getting people to come to the showroom to pick up the car, because of multiple people who would have touched it, etc. So one of our designers, like Pradumna said, we went through a process. Marketing team came to me and said, Pratap, how can we solve this problem? We are unable to get people to come and pick up their car in the dealership. They are afraid of doing that, so they're holding back their purchase decision. So we went through a very quick process with the team, and we did two things. One is, after the car is cleaned, we put a couple of these, indicators of cleanliness. So for example, on the doors, we put a sticker across the door. That means when you open it, the sticker breaks. It's like breaking a seal. Everything that you touched inside the car, so the gear shift, the steering wheel, the touch screen, we put a film, a protective film over it that you would have to peel away. And that too, we did use a recyclable plastic. So, and finally, in the part of the delivery process, we put the entire car into an inflatable plastic bubble, the entire car. That means once it was cleaned, it was sealed, we put it inside this bubble, which is filled with air actually, and you're sure that no one else would have touched the car. So only when you get the delivery, they unzip that bubble, you break the seal and you get into the car. So this is a small example we took from the hotel industry, and we applied it to a completely different area of business. And, I'll just, not to brag about, Tata Motors, but we are 108% up on sales from the same month last year. That means pre-COVID and post-COVID, we have doubled our sales. And this is all because of some of these small touches we introduced. So yes, digital is important, but I think designers should never forget. So to be able to live in these two worlds is something I would really recommend.
Very fascinating.
Think of.
Great innovation, really fascinating example.
Thank you. Thanks.
Siddharth, I have some good news for students.
Yes, please go ahead.
That is, the new education policy 2020 has integrated art and design education with the curriculum. So no longer is there a separate curricular and extracurricular scenario. It's integrated. Interdisciplinarity has been brought in. It's the key. So every student from KG to 12 will have periods set aside every day for art and design education.
Absolutely.
So I think this is really something really unique and wonderful. And I think they have recognized the importance of art and design education in every sphere of life, be it a career or be it developing your aesthetic sense, your personality, be it making you future ready with the employability skills. It is now center stage. And that is going to drive courses and the industry.
And therefore, design is such a phenomenal fit for students looking to be future ready.
Absolutely. So you better think of having more branches across the country and many more courses.
I think definitely many more courses because we're seeing that, as Abhishek said, the great disruptor that was COVID, we very quickly realized that digital design is really the future, and we need to move very quickly from, what our traditional object-based design has been to really design-led technology. Yes. I've seen Momita, the host for the day, pop up on the side. I'm
One
going to thank, yes, please go ahead.
One thing, Miss Dr. Das, taking from your point, I think Siddharth should not look at only ISDI. I think it should be a ASDI. It's an Asian school. You know, I think in the subcontinent there's a huge possibility. You know, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore.
Absolutely.
You know, why should you limit yourself to India? I think that kind of thinking.
Yes.
Education.
Yes.
There's a clear demand-supply gap.
Yes, you should spread
and
your
we need
wings
to bring
even
quality
wider.
education.
You know, why can't you go to Sri Lanka? Why can't you go to Nepal? You know, why can't you expand it? I think regional, you can play a very important role.
And I have a suggestion also here. A lot of international schools are bringing in foundational courses leading to their universities and giving credits. So if you could bring in some foundational courses, which would also be in an alignment with NEP 2020, it would be a huge value add.
And the good news is the session after ours is really on all the international pathways that we have created for our students, because we've realized that, you know, we don't want to be an airport where people go abroad for their entire studies, but we realize that a transcultural, cross-cultural, global experience is absolutely important for India, not only for students to grow, but also for us as a nation to bring in best practices. And, you know, Pratap is a shining example of that in terms of, you know, the cross-cultural ability of us as a nation to influence global design.
Right.
So I would actually like to thank each one of you for taking out the time this afternoon. I know the session is short, but I think each of your valuable insights, from multidisciplinarity to the need for innovation, to actually driving the NEP to new education, and most importantly, as Abhishek said, the 4 Ds of 2021. So thank you very much. I think it's been a very enlightening afternoon. Appreciate all your insights. And I would like, again, to thank each one of you personally, because, you know, Professor Vyas and us go way back. Dr. Das, I still remember the car ride we shared in Mumbai. And Pratap, you have been so kind to always be there when we have requested you. And Abhishek, look forward to a great relationship moving ahead. And I will leave the last word to Professor Vyas before I sign off.
No, I think, you know, it's such a wonderful experience to share the screen with Pratap. I bought a car which is designed by him. And it was such a proud moment for me that, yes, there is a designer, Tendulkar, sitting with us, and who has made us feel very, very proud. And mind you, this is what I'm saying, that sometimes we undermine our capabilities, that what design power, especially in India, you see, what is unique in India is that our culture, our tradition, and we live in such a diverse world around, meaning country around, means like socio-economic, cultural. I always have spoken about it. I think we can deal complexity much better than others, and that is what Pratap is doing. That is training of design at NID, and getting a global perspective in Royal College of Arts, understanding of the culture, tradition in India and NID. And now here you go, that who is sitting on one of the major business giant, Tata Motors, heading the design department globally. I think this is something which we feel very, very proud about it. And that is what design can do, because it can take you to the top. And I always say that in design education, when you become designer, you see, in company or in your own organization, you always deal with the top people. Now, when he had joined Tata Motors many years ago, he must be talking to Mr. Tata, because that vision you have to convert into products or so. So you are always connected with the people who are giving vision, who are going future of the businesses and all. And I think that positioning of leadership comes in the design profession. And that's why I say that if you are having a bit of creative doing thing new, means today morning, just to let Siddharth know, that Jamshed Godrej, there was a quick fire between Jamshed Godrej and Naushad Forbes. And very nicely, Jamshed Godrej said that his father said that think every day something new. And I think what a profound statement, that think something new every day, and design allows you to think something new and go forward. So whoever aspiring students who are there in today's this webinar, and the parents, it's a very safe, and I think the future is very solid, and it is certainly going to give a great achievement in the career if you are really sincere and want to pursue it and take it. So that not to have any confusion, if you feel that your ingredients are there in this dealing with the creativity and something to do with hands and do with technology and all, it's a right profession. And ISDI, I've been in touch with Siddharth, and the way passionately last 10 years this institute has really allow you to breathe freely. I think that is the biggest thing which this institute provides. So I fully endorse the quality of education and the future, which is very, very secured after going through this education. So all the best to all of you, and thank you very much, Siddharth, for giving me this.
Thank you, each one of you. Thank you for your precious time and always your support and best wishes.
Thank you. So continue to unleash the design mojo in everyone.
Yes, most definitely.
Thanks, Pratap. And Pratap, by the way, 2 vehicles have got award today. So congratulations, Pratap. It has made.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor to hear each one of you. My heartfelt thanks to Siddharth for moderating the session and just taking one step ahead from where Professor Vyas concluded, that today is actually the right time for a combined blended education, which is some part of it in India, rooted in our education system. And how do we take that and get the global exposure as well? And there are multiple pathways which ISTI, our institution, has created. And of course, there are multiple pathways which Robin will also take us through. So thank you so much, my esteemed panel. I would now like to invite Professor Bulbul Chaudhary and Mr. Robin Zadara for the next fireside chat on the international pathways and the globalization of education, so to say. Professor Bulbul Chaudhary is our Dean of Outreach and Admissions, and Robin, hi Robin, he is co-founder and director of In Country, which specializes in international pathways. Over to you, Professor Chaudhary.
Thank you very much, Momita. Thank you for the lovely session, and I was quite enjoying the previous session. And as Pratap went on to say that ISDI should actually be ASDI, or the Asian School of Design and Innovation. But until such time that ISDI spreads its wings across the globe, for now, we've got a whole lot of partnerships that we are going to talk about for all our students to be able to get part of their education here in India and some part of it in various parts of the world. I'm joined by Robin Zadara, who's joining us also, like Pratap, from London. And thank you, Robin, for joining us. You've been instrumental in many of our arrangements and agreements with universities across the globe. So this session really was built because a lot of students and parents have these questions, which is, what do I study? Where do I study? Do I study in India entirely, or can I possibly study the undergrad program somewhere else in the world? Shall I go and study the undergrad program, or shall I study the postgrad program and masters? When is a good time to go? And how do I go about it? And so really this section is about all the possibilities that exist for all you young ones, because these possibilities did not exist about maybe even 10 years back. So this is a presentation, or this section is all about the possibilities that exist. So all of you, a little bit like Pratap, get the best of the studying in India as well as studying abroad. So really there are 4 questions we are going to answer, and they're all very interesting questions for all the students and for parents. And these are the where's, the what, the why, the when. And I'm going to start with asking Robin my first question. And Robin, this is a question that may sound rather basic, but really, why study abroad? And I ask you this because you're actually an example of someone who studied abroad, but you run a company out of India and for most parts work out of India. So why study abroad?
Thanks, Bubble. I actually don't think it's a silly question. I think it's a question that people should ask themselves more than they do. Often, particularly in India and in Asia, people don't ask why they're studying abroad. They just want to study abroad because they think it's the right thing to do. So I think it's a really good question. I don't think it's a stark choice, as many people do, about whether you study abroad or you study in India. I think there are so many different kinds of opportunities for studying abroad, and I think we'll get a bit of time to speak about that later on. But I think, yes, it's a big fact. Yes, you should definitely study abroad. And if you're presented with any of those opportunities, you should take them. Now, I think there are millions and millions of reasons why, and I could probably speak for the whole day about them. But I'll just pick out a few of the key ones. I think one of them is about broadening your horizons. Most of the universities that welcome Indian students who are abroad will have students studying in them from 150 different countries. And I think that the benefit of being able to call on your batchmate from Tokyo who you studied with in New York City when you are working on a project with an international dimension later on in your career is extremely valuable. And it's one of the big reasons that people do go and study abroad, is that exposure to contacts and meeting people and being surrounded by people from different places. The other thing on the same sort of topic is employability. I employ 30 people in India, and I've employed hundreds of people all over the world at different points. And one of the things that I always look for is, can I put them in a room anywhere, anytime, with anybody? And I think that's so important in the world that we're moving into. No matter what people say right now, I think we are a global world and will continue to be a global world. And if you can be dropped into a room with a bunch of people from different countries and hold your own, it makes a huge difference. And it's quite difficult to do that unless you have exposed yourself to people from other countries. So I think that's a big part of it. Krish has very kindly put up a slide here on the creative industries. And I think that's another big bit. The UK and places like the Netherlands and America are global hubs for the creative industries, much in the same way as India is for computer science and so forth. And getting that exposure to the center of the industry that you're working in is huge. And being in a place where creativity and the creative industries are at the forefront of the economy in general is big. So there's a lot of text up on the screen right now, but I think the key takeaway is that job creation in the UK within the creative industries grew 3 times faster than any other sector of the economy. And so being there and able to kind of, work after you've studied or do internships and get exposure to the industry as a whole is big. And obviously in places like the UK, there are a lot of jobs in those areas right now. So that's a big part. Hilarious. Siri just popped up and she'd recorded everything I said and just told me just a moment.
Thank you for that, Robin. Very insightful. And given that we live in an experiential economy, the more that you pick up from interactions from people and environment and countries goes a long way in who we become. So I totally get that. The other very popular question that often gets asked, and I'm going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to request you to jump in and add wherever you feel appropriate, is, and maybe this question comes more from parents than the students actually, is, well, shall I send my 17-year-old or 18-year-old to study an undergrad program, or should I wait and send them to do a master's? And I'm actually reminded of an instance when a young lady I met was actually applying to every university from Sydney to Paris to UK and Florida. And I asked her, how did you actually make a choice? Because these are different parts of the continent. And she said, she looked up the website. And so sometimes it might be appropriate to actually be better informed about whether you should go for an undergrad program or a postgrad program. Different people would have different opinion, but I do believe that the answers may not lie in absolute terms, which means an absolute undergrad program or an absolute postgraduate program. And so really, let's look at all the other options that we sometimes may not be aware of that exist. And I think Robin and I have been working very closely at making all those other possibilities available to students basis their aspiration, could also be possibly their area of wanting to work in a specialist area, as well as maybe the family's budget. So I'm going to start with very short programs, which are as short as 2 weeks at a time. And then we've got longer programs, which give you a possibility of studying in another country for anything as long as 6 months, possibly to even 1 year. And we often refer to these as semester exchange programs. And then finally, there are students who may start their program in India and complete the program in another university. So let's talk. And then finally, of course, when students finish all the 4 years in India, how do we make it possible for them to choose a university to study their master's program? So the first one really is the short programs. And to enable this to happen, it definitely helps if universities or schools like ISD have a partnership with universities across the globe. And how did we go about signing agreements with the universities? Time and again, we found out that there were certain universities that students wanted to go to pursue part of their education there, whether it was Goldsmith, which is ranked extremely highly in the UK, or whether it's Nottingham Trent for fashion, or whether it is the Leeds Art. So you've got here a couple of universities that you can see. There are a couple of Dutch universities, a few in Germany. And the idea was really to map our curriculum with theirs and enable student transition to happen at some point of their program. I'm particularly fond of in the first year when students are really new and they want a global exposure. And yet they're so new that even we don't know them enough at that point. And that's when we make it possible for them to go over 2 weeks programs across the globe. And in these pictures that you have right in front of you, well, there you also have the Royal College of Art, which is the college we've been talking about all this while, where Pratap did his master's. You've got the HKU in Utrecht in the Netherlands, where we do a very popular program every January called Imagining Tomorrow. And these are about looking at 6 challenges of the tomorrow, and that students work together. About 30-35 students go for this program every January. Arts University Bournemouth, of course, is an all-time popular program that students do a summer school in, and this university is known for many things, but it's also known for its model making program. So a couple of these programs that you see on the slides running are all the 15-day immersion programs that happen across the globe, largely in the UK, but also for fashion students, there are possibilities to participate. They get invited by a university, often University of Creative Arts and Arts University Bournemouth for 15 days. But while they go there to do a module, they also get to participate in the London Fashion Week, which happens at around the same time. As part of the 15-day immersions, the students also go to participate and do backstage assistance in New York Fashion Week, the Dubai Fashion Week. And for those who may not get the possibility, they also have the Lakme Fashion Week right here. This is, of course, I'm very fond of this Dutch program that students do called Imagining Tomorrow. This is the picture from January of 2020. Well, the 2021 January batch is not likely to go for obvious reasons, but hopefully they should go later in the year. So once the students have gone through these 15-day programs, what is a longer program that comes in mostly in the second year and in the third year. And my favorite is the semester exchange program. And this is where the students get to go to another university as part of an exchange student. What's very exciting about exchange, and Robin, you'll agree, is that for every student who goes to another university, we also receive a student come to us. And that it truly is a two-way exchange. The other exciting thing about exchange programs is that you don't actually pay a differential tuition. You are going as an SD student, and therefore you continue paying the tuition fee that you've paid at ISD, though there may be a significant difference sometimes in the tuition fee between the university that you're going to and that at ISD. So these are a couple of pictures from Preet. You see Preet here having a dosa with Derek, and Preet was actually the previous slide. I don't know if you remember, but that was Preet in the Netherlands. So Derek actually came here first, and then Preet was the exchange student who went to the Netherlands. So these are the examples of the exchange programs that we do. Professor Vyas, whom you met earlier, has very kindly consented to also increase our portfolio of semester exchange universities, with some in Japan as well. And then finally, there are what we call the transfer opportunities for students who start their program in India and study the first and the second year at ISD and would eventually want to take a transfer to a partner university. And then right here on the slide that you all see between Parsons, CAD, University of Arts London, California College of Arts, UAL are some of the universities that students have taken a transfer to. And in and Nottingham Trent, Robin Hood country as they call it, this is a very special. There are a couple of arrangements which are 2+1, which means you actually finish 2 years at ISD and go and complete the final year in Nottingham, in which case you may be doing the program over 3 years and not 4. So quickly to wrap up, the 15 days, semester exchange, the 2+2 pathways or the 2+1 pathway, and eventually, finally, the question about shall I go and do a master's? For those who are considering going for a master's program to UK or to the US, at ISD, every student who aspires to study their master's would get at least 3 such opportunities. And then they can decide which of these universities they wish to pursue their program in. A couple of our students who've gone on to do their MA in innovation management or MDes in Goldsmith, even filmmaking programs on completion of the undergraduate design program here at ISD. So these are the master's progressions to US, and then you've got the other slide that talks about the master's progression to the UK. Now, all of what you saw was really all the opportunities for students to not necessarily study the entire undergrad program in an international destination. And I think for parents, I personally believe it is also more, it's a right way to get the student a cross-cultural experience, and actually they get the best of both the worlds. Robin, your take on any of these programs? Semester exchange is my favorite. Which is yours?
My favorite is the articulation, 2+2, 3+1, these kinds of things, meaning that you can do part of your degree in India and then finish it off in another country. And I love that because it gives you the best of both worlds. I think it's one of the reasons that I'm so proud of the work that Bauble and me have been doing over the years to create these partnerships. It saves students a lot of money, and it gives students that opportunity who may not have been able to do it otherwise. So I love the articulation agreements.
You like the 2+2 transfers. Okay, lovely. Well, and of course, for all of you who are listening in, you do know about our partnership with Parsons, and therefore, one of the most popular destinations for students to want to pursue a student transfer program is actually Parsons, and a couple of them in the UK. So yes, Parsons has always been a very popular choice for many students to want to pursue their transfer programs too. And in fact, this year, I saw a very large number of students who were planning to go and study in Parsons and also several universities in the UK. And as this year turned out, I found a very large number of applications come to ISD from students who were possibly considering not studying in India at all. And now they are likely to consider a pathway, which Robin talked about a little bit earlier. I'm going to come to my third question, Robin, and this is, well, there are so many universities, and looking at the website, looking at the brochures, looking at through the screen, many of them look pretty much the same sometimes. I mean, unless you've been to one, it's difficult to know. How would you advise the students in actually choosing a university if they were to go for any of these programs?
I think the answer is different depending on the student, but I do think there are some sort of key planks that make sense to everybody. One of the big ones is location. And students often don't consider location when they're looking at studying abroad. And you know, obviously you could be looking at anything from a major city through to a smaller town, through to a rural location, a beachside location, somewhere up on top of a hill. And the experience that you will get will depend largely on where you are. So I think definitely Google the places that you're interested in, find out what sort of places they are, what the weather's like, what sort of things there are to do there, and think about your own personality. If you're the kind of person that hasn't been abroad before or hasn't been away from your parents before, think about that. Like, do you want to be in a major city that can be quite unforgiving in some ways, or do you want to be in a smaller place? Equally, if you're a very gregarious person and highly independent, then you probably will want to be in a major city. So definitely think about the location. Have a look at the campuses. I think we've got some pictures somewhere of some campuses on these slides. But sometimes you can really connect with a campus and get a feeling for how the university is based on its style. You might be looking at, like, you know, really traditional old buildings, or you might want funky architecture or whatever, but have a look at the campus. I chose my university when I went to study based on the faculty. The faculty in the university that I went to were rock stars. They were writing the textbooks in the university and other universities, and I love their work. So look at the faculty. And in your case, as creative practitioners, you'll want to go and look and see what their practice is. Like a lot of faculty in ISD, but also in universities abroad, are creative practitioners in industry, and they continue to do that alongside their academic work. So go and see what they're up to. Go and see what their work is. Go and see what their research is, and see who you connect with. Look at student work. I think we've gone the wrong way around, but there was some examples of some student work just back there. Dig around on Instagram, go and look on the websites for the universities, and you'll usually be able to see the kind of stuff that students do. All creative specialist universities, particularly in the UK and US, places like that, will have an end of year show where they exhibit the work of the graduates. And if you Google the name of the university plus end of year show, you'll come across all of that stuff, and you'll see show reels and you'll see images and so forth, and get an idea of what you're going to connect with. Don't look too much at rankings. Rankings are a bit of a myth. The university I went to, for example, was 3rd in the UK rankings when I went there, and I think it's now about 43rd. So they change every year, and I think that you know, the people that you're going to be studying with, the people you're going to be learning from, and the place that you're going to be studying in are the key things to look at.
Well, I also wanted to thank you, Robin, for having organized the Masters Cafe yesterday while you had all the universities of from the UK talk about the master's offers that they had to make to the 4th year students, and also the scholarships that they so generously offered. So thank you for that, Robin. Well, just to extend the same question on how do you choose a university at ISD while you're studying at ISD, we often told the students to actually find out a little bit about the universities that they wish to go to. For instance, you see TU Delft here, which is particularly good for the product design students who want to work in the area of technology and innovation. And likewise, you've got Royal College of Art, which is very popular for many students who want to do a program in service design and transportation design. And so really, each of these universities that you see are very good at certain programs. And I think over the 4 years, the idea would be to interact with professors who come from these universities, and they would address you. And you really take a more informed choice about where you wish to study the program. If you look at the next 4 slides, these are 4 different stories of 4 very different students who in the first year weren't certain about which of the 6 undergrad courses that ISD offers did they even want to pursue. And that happens in many cases. They know they want to study design. Lamia went on to study product design at ISD. Over the 3 years that she studied at ISD, she swung towards medical devices. Both her internships, one in Pune in design directions and the other one at Philips Healthcare, were in the area of healthcare. And eventually she went on to do a master's in bioengineering and global medical innovation in a university called Rice University in the US, which is which is an Ivy League university. And I have to confess, she's doing extremely well. Her young sister is now part of ISD. Now, this is yet another student who is also a product design student from Mumbai and from the same class as Lamia. And she went on to doing a very different kind of a master's program in service design, which was talked about extensively in Shanu's presentation earlier at the Royal College of Art in London. And really what you see here are two students from the same class who start the same journey to start with, uncertain about which vocation or what kind of design, get into product design. I'm just demonstrating product as an example here, and get into masters into very diverse areas. And I'm not sure if this is an answer you would have when you're 17 or 18, till you've gone through some bit of the design journey, till you've gone through some kind of mentoring that would happen while you're working with your faculty, until you've had some interactions with people, either from RISE or even from Royal College of Art. Yet another young lady, Tanya Puri, and Tanya actually had multiple offers for masters. She had at least 6 or 7 offers, including from SCAD and Parsons and the University of Arts London. She chose to do an interiors design masters at Parsons, and that's where she went on. And yet we've got yet another fashion design student who studied on completing her fashion design program. The young lady is from Pune, and she does a program called MSc in Marketing and Brand Management from Nottingham Trent University. So these 4 examples are to demonstrate to you that each of the master's journey can be very diverse, and they chose their universities basis what is it that they wished to do and which university offered that program to the best of what was available across the globe. So the answers will reveal themselves over time. And as Robin said, don't necessarily go by the rankings, though all these 4 universities that you see over here are amongst the top few as per various other global ranking standards. Another one, Robin, that comes often is, especially because the cost of education between India and overseas can sometimes be significantly different. Can I expect a scholarship while I go to study abroad? Your take.
I think this actually feeds really quite nicely into the previous question about whether to do an undergraduate or a postgraduate. Scholarships tend to be much more generous at postgraduate level than they are at undergraduate level. So we have, you really got 2 kinds of scholarships. You've got the in-house university scholarships, which tend to be part scholarships. So they're almost like a discount from the tuition fees. And then we have what we call full ride scholarships, which are scholarships that are usually external from the universities, and they are a full ride, right? So they pay for your flights, they pay for your accommodation, they pay for your tuition fees. You don't spend a penny and you can go to some of the top universities in the world doing that. But the full ride scholarships tend to be at postgrad level. Most universities don't offer them for undergrad. And so it's a big argument to do your postgrad abroad and your undergrad in India. But I think very important, and it's good that we're talking about this now. Well, I think a lot of the audience are people who are in school. I spend a lot of time speaking to people who've just done their undergraduates in India and they want a scholarship, and they've got a 60% or a 55% or something like that in their degree, and there's nothing I can do. Like, one of the prerequisites of getting one of those big full ride scholarships is a first class degree. And that's just the basics. To get those full ride scholarships, you really need to excel. You need to work very hard. You need to expose yourself to internships, work on projects outside of university, and really do well on your degree. So I think that's an argument for studying your postgrad abroad. For undergrad, quite a lot of the partnerships that we've already put in place, I think, with ISD include scholarships built into them. So if you do want to go and transfer and do part of your degree abroad, you may find that the university that you want to do it with has a partnership with ISD already, and a scholarship built into that. Up on the screen right now, I mean, I'm from the UK and most of my work is based on UK universities, but this is quite a useful link, and you may want to take a screenshot of it because it will give you every single scholarship in the UK, including the undergraduate ones, including all of the in-house ones at universities, but particularly Chevening and the Charles Wallace Scholarship and the Great Scholarships. Those 3 are the the ones that will be a significant help. The great scholarships are also for undergraduate. They're not full ride, but they're large. But Charles Wallace and the Schevening scholarships are full ride scholarships. So my recommendation, if you are interested in getting a scholarship for postgraduate, is go and look at it now. Go and look at the kinds of people who won those scholarships. Go see what the requirements are, and start thinking about it now. Start working towards getting those scholarships, because it's so competitive. So yeah, that's my take.
Thanks for that, Robin. And yeah, I totally get this, because while the students come to us after class 12, well, many of them may or may not have had art and design as a subject, and the body of work that is available may be great to get into a design school, but possibly not necessarily to win a big scholarship to study abroad. But while they've studied 2 years and have promising work, we've seen that for most students who've gone on a pathway program and studied in the UK or anywhere else, invariably they would have gone on a scholarship, because the kind of work that they've done at ISD enables them to get those. When they go for the masters, on an average, I find, and thanks to you for making some of these possible, Arts University invariably gives our students a 50% scholarship for a master's. Most of them who've been to Parsons have been on a 50% scholarship. But every student who's been to any of our partner schools, either as part of a master's progression or at some point in their undergrad 2+2 pathway, has invariably gone on a certain scholarship. And I just thought I'll show you some of them right here to know what to expect. Of course, the fiat in the US is significantly different from Europe, and therefore you do see higher scholarships possible for our students in the range of 50% while they go to Parsons, and the others also get upwards of about 20 or 25%. Well, these are the scholarships that the university gives, but there are also certain other kind of scholarships, and the role of the student international division at ISD is to help negotiate those scholarships for you while you're planning to go abroad. So those really, Robin, were the questions, and I can see there are several other questions that come on the international, and there's only the tip of the iceberg, and I can see questions about I want to go to Royal College after 2 years. Well, they don't have an undergrad program, but you can go for the master's. Can I study at ISD and go after 2 years? Yes, you can. So I think what we're going to do really, Momita, and if you would love it for you to be able to make the announcement, is we will probably do another session on, I'm leaving it for you to make the announcement, but we will definitely do another section, a separate session where we can take all questions on international education while studying at ISD. Thank you, Robin. Thank you very much for joining us from UK. And I look forward to another session with you soon.
I look forward to it too. Thank you so much for having me, and good luck with the rest of the event.
Thank you so much, Professor Bulbul and Robin. It was an absolute pleasure. And you are right, Bulbul. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we are inundated with questions on the Q&A panel here, on YouTube, on the various WhatsApp groups that we have, and power of technology. While the session was going on, we were able to put together another event. So students who have questions and we've not been able to answer those for you yet, please join us in the new year on 6th of January, and we'll get Professor Bulbul back, and we'll answer all of the questions that have come in. I mean, I can see 80 questions already on the Q&A, and there are another 80, 90 odd on my WhatsApp, on my phone itself. So please, the registration link is on the Q&A panel. Go in and register right away. Of course, seats are limited because on digital space, we do not want a lot of people. So just quickly go and sign up for this event, and we will be there. We'll be ready with all the answers, 81 questions and counting. Thank you so much, Professor Bulbul and Robin. And with that, we come to the most exciting part. We've heard so many people talking. So it's time we do something, right? We want to get into ISTI. We want to start our career in design. And what's this first step? The first step is, of course, the interview, the entrance exam. And portfolio is so very important for that to clear the entrance exam to any design school. And we have Professor Ranjit, who will now take up a live workshop on portfolio development, which will help you understand the tips and tricks to ace that portfolio evaluation. Please complete the entire workshop because at the end of it, you will get a couple of surprises. So leaving it to you, Professor Ranjit, and I'm also one of your students. So go ahead, take it on.
Jai, just before you jump in and welcome on board, and well, I have to say this, I have to introduce you as ISD's most favorite faculty.
Yes.
I've heard so many students say that. I just wanted to quickly make an announcement that there is a doodle art competition, and I know a lot of you have sent in your entries, and Momita is going to make an announcement of all the winners towards the end. So just in case you're wondering.
That was my surprise.
Oh, that was a surprise. I'm sorry about that. Professor Jay, all yours.
All right, thank you so much, Bulbul. It's a pleasure to be here, everyone. And thank you, Momita, as well for the introduction. It's always an interesting process getting into the school of your choice. We've already heard so much about what to do in design, how to get into design, what the different avenues are. Now, one of the most important things is your portfolio. If you're going to be working with a portfolio that's messy or that's incomplete, well, it becomes difficult, right? We as people who are sitting on the other side looking at your portfolios, we don't know what you're about. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at how to create a winning portfolio, how to create something that tells a story about you and puts you in the best light to whoever you're applying to. So as we go into the whole process, right, let's first understand what is a portfolio. A portfolio is a collection of artworks, projects, or ideas composed in a linear manner that expresses your ability to think, create, and exhibit in such a way that the viewer gains an understanding of your process, personality, and skills in the clearest way possible. Now, these are a lot of words. Obviously, it's a very long statement. So let's try and simplify this. Let's try and understand what it means, essentially. What it means is it should showcase your sense of aesthetics and style in a concise visual arrangement of your content so that you are seen as a prime candidate for the position you aim to fill. Okay. Essentially speaking, whatever you have that you wish to show us, it should be put together in such a way that it is appealing, straightforward, to the point, and clearly shows us your abilities and skills as well as a side of your personality. Now, how do you go around putting that together? What do you do with it? Let's take a look. To begin with, you need a few things to put into place. And the first most important one is your process. So how do I build a portfolio? First thing to do is to collate your work. Make sure you have everything present. Make sure you have good photographs of it, nice clear pictures of everything. Make sure you have all the information written down regarding those projects or those pieces. The second step is to organize your work. The most confusing portfolios are always the ones that just are very haphazard, don't have things present, things are missing. So you're trying to just push everything together and trying to fit it all in. So it's best to organize everything, make sure everything is classified and separated into 3 piles, all right? Your best work, your good work, and your average work. Now, we're always looking for the best that you can do. But sometimes as part of your journey, as part of your story, you may want to show us something that you did previously that you might have done something similar to again to show us a contrast. Now that's where these 3 piles come into play. If you can organize things, separate things, and classify them, that's where everything starts playing into your hands. Now, once you have your 3 piles, what do you do with them? They can't just be lying around everywhere. So what we do is we pull the best out of your best. That means we're looking for 10 to 12 pieces out of your best pile. Once you have those, you can narrow it down to a list of 8 to 10 individual pieces or 3 complete projects, which includes the process work, the initial work, and the final work, and 3 to 5 individual pieces that maybe show off some of your talents, your skills, your abilities, or part of your personality. Now, once you've got this list of things, you have your projects in hand. What do you do with them? Let's take a look. You begin by arranging your selections such that there is a good flow from one to the other, right? It shows a different aspect of your abilities in a nice movement. So if you're aiming, for example, for communication design, where do you start? You can begin with a journey of your materials, your mediums, perhaps project ideas, something that you feel really, really passionate about. And you can start telling a story from there, right? Ensure that all your images are of good resolution. Now, obviously, because you're not going to be presenting physical objects to a person in an online scenario or when you send it across to someone, you need to make sure that whatever it is you're putting in is a clearly photographed thing. Now, here's a quick tip for you. And you guys can try this right now, in fact. Take a picture of something you have just lying on the table. Yeah, your notebook, your sketchbook, perhaps a drawing that you have, and just see what the photograph looks like. There'll probably be a shadow falling onto it, your own shadow, something else maybe. The light might be bouncing and shining off of it at an odd angle if it's acrylic paint, right? So here's what you do. You take your table, push it up against a white wall or at least a blank wall of some kind. You stand your artwork up vertically, all right? So here's what you can do. I have something behind here. It's one of my old paintings. Feel free to judge it. I mean, it's not the greatest thing, but that's part of the journey, having some of your work there to show you what's good, bad, or not. So here's a picture. Yeah, nice little painting. But if I photograph this lying down, can you see how the light is changing and it's bouncing off of it? Yeah, there's a bit of a glare. It doesn't look all that great. However, the minute I hold this up and pull it against a flat surface, now suddenly it stands out. And there's a lovely, clean kind of finish to it. All right. So remember to do this. The cleaner your picture, the less you have to edit, the less you have to crop, the better the outcome. If you don't have a plain wall, well, the simplest thing to do is just take a plain sheet of fabric or a larger piece of paper and just hold up your work against that. It'll do the trick perfectly fine. All right. This is also, by the way, a quick trick if you're interested in doing artistic photography, where you can just stand up against a blank surface, change your lighting, take a lovely photograph. Now, just the photographs are not important. What goes with it are captions. If we're just looking at an artwork, we don't know what you're trying to tell us. We don't know what you're trying to show us. So tell us a little bit about it. We love using words as we communicate when we speak, but it's also important to make sure it's on your sheet or on your page so that whoever's in front of you, when you're not there to explain your work, can read it and understand it. Now, once you have everything in place, you've got all your things together. Imran, can we go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. It's important to have a good flow to your presentation or to your portfolio. So make sure that you have a title slide, something that introduces your portfolio, an about me page where we get to know you through a small piece of information, perhaps a little bit of a personality or academic achievement that you've got to showcase, and also titles for each project. So on every slide that you have a project or a piece, make sure there's a title that tells us what it is. And finally, if you're using projects, like we said earlier, please make sure you write a short note on the process of the execution. Because obviously, if you're not there to explain it to us, we need to know how you went around and did it. So make sure that you write a crisp short note, maybe around 50 words or so, just a small note that tells us a little bit about how you went about with the ideation, the material you chose, or perhaps the process of execution. All right. Now, what do you include in your portfolio? Let's take a look at that. A wide variety of things would be acceptable in a portfolio, and it really comes down to what your strongest pieces are. So you can include drawings, sketches, you can put in paintings, sculptures or models, you can put in poetry if you've written poetry, photography works as well, videos, films, animations. Now the trick with these is, if you're submitting a portfolio where there is a limitation to the size, host the video somewhere else, perhaps in a Google Drive, on a YouTube channel, and attach a clickable link in your portfolio. That ensures that whoever's looking at your portfolio can go to that website or go to that site and see your work in high resolution, and that you're not compromising on the quality of your product. You can also include design projects, social projects. So say, for example, you worked with an NGO. Perhaps you educated children somewhere. If you have good photographs of it, if you have a bit of a backstory to it, you can include that as well. It does give us a side of you that we understand that says, oh, this person's not just a machine. They're an empathic human being that knows how to reach out to the community and work with them. But here's the kicker. The next one is really special. Your sketchbook pages. Just showing us the final artworks, yeah, that's fine. But we really want to get to know you through your portfolio, don't we? We need to understand who you are. And your sketchbook comes into play here. It's important for us to be able to see exactly what you do, how you think of things, how do you sketch them out, how do you write your notes, how do you put a concept together. It's very, very vital and very important that we see this. Of course, competition winning submissions are also key. If they won a competition, you know they're really good, please do include it. But also include the information about the competition so we get a sensibility of what it was, what the brief was perhaps, so we get an idea of what the work is. And of course, live performances. We know that some of you are singers, some of you are dancers, some of you are even perhaps actors. You may have even worked on a production. So along with your videos, films, and animations, if you do have live performances, perhaps a music exam that you aced and you feel like, that piece of music was phenomenal, do include that in the same way that I mentioned for the videos, films, and animations. Post it on a good site where you know you're going to get good quality on the playback, and just include the link so that we can see it. Now, this is a lot to choose from, obviously, but it's important that you make your organized piles to be able to sift through all of these and make the firm selections. And remember, a good flow is necessary to tell the story. So if you can start classifying your pieces, you can start telling a story, and you can show us how you've evolved over time. Perhaps you started out just with drawing, and then you moved into painting, and then you moved into sculpture, but then you realized, oh wait, I can do this in a physical sense. I can actually make things for people. Or I picked up photography to be able to tell the story of my materials. So if you get my drift now, we can place one thing after another in a nice linear fashion, and it tells us a lot about you. All right. Now, moving on, let's take a look at some examples of how to use arrangement to tell your story. Now, this is a project where the student worked on painted pottery and wanted to explain the work in a nice, cohesive manner. So what she did was she put together a slide, a singular slide for this project, gave us the title at the top. She ensured that there was a good brief about the project, and aesthetically and visually, it's pleasing and well arranged with enough negative space to give the eye some breathing room. All right. Try to ensure that each piece has a caption and, if possible, a concept note that explains it in terms of the process, material, and idea, because it gives us a deeper insight into who you are and how you work. And essentially, when you're going into a design school, that's what we want to know. Now, this is not limited only to communication design or to model making. This works across the board for fashion, photography, for videos, whatever it may be. All right. Now, another example of what an interesting layout is courtesy of one of our students, Sai Mahajan. She allowed us permission, very thankfully, to use her portfolio as an example. And in the beginning of her portfolio, she had a title slide and then this beautiful About Me slide. The choice of photograph gives us a peek into what she enjoys doing. And she enjoys spending time in the outdoors. She enjoys spending time contemplating life and thinking. And to go along with that, she also told us a little bit of a story about herself in the About section. So if you read the way she's written it, my portfolio is titled so. Her portfolio is titled Memories, by the way. My portfolio is titled so due to my obsession with stories. I think the world is made up of three things: atoms, the spaces between them, and the stories about them. I seek to tell a story through everything that I create. If I am to give a brief description of my being, I would say I am a self-coach, respectable girl with coarse hands stained in ink or color, who is most likely to spend the day alone at the sea. So what she's written reflects the picture. It gives us a full all-round perspective of her. And now we get to know her. We have a bond with her. All right. Now let's also take a look at some of the pictures in her portfolio. What did she include? She created very simple layouts wherein there was either one or two works maximum per slide and a brief description about it. Now, she didn't go fancy and put 1,000 pictures into place because that would just take away from the artworks. So she narrowed it down to a series of artworks that told a story. She loves flora. She loves thinking about things. She has deep feelings of her own womanhood. And so she's included the pieces, and these are what I've decided to show you here, which tell her story. Now, if you do go through her entire portfolio, it tells a fantastic story about what she thinks, her own evolution as a person, not just as a designer or an artist, but as a human being. So keep this in mind. Simplicity works. If you're not going for a lot of pieces, just look for a clean layout. It tells the story, it does the job. Now, I do have an example coming up next of how you can use a lot of pictures together, but how it can look a little bit cluttered. So on the left, this is of course Krishi Samthalia's pieces. She again gave us permission to use her portfolio. On the left, you can see that it's a bit more of an interesting picture where there's a little bit of a movement that your eye does. It's not linear, it's not flat, it's engaging. So the sketches are present as well as the source pictures. On the right, however, there's very complex slides themselves as pictures being incorporated into one slide. So where do you look? How do you understand what's going on? There's so much happening. So in this case, breathing room helps the viewer see detail. Having too much on one page can leave the viewer unclear and without a clear point of entry into your work. Somebody had asked earlier today, what is the difference between art and design? Well, what she's created are works of design, some of them being artworks themselves. Unfortunately, because we have so many pieces together on a single page, I'm missing the entry into the artwork. I can't connect with it as much as I would have if each of them was a single piece on a slide, or at the very least, two pieces on a slide. So just keep this in mind as you're looking for layouts, as you're thinking about what to do. Simple colors, simple layouts, clarity of thought, it just does the job. Now, with that, I would like to open it up, looking at the next slide, for a couple of questions. Okay, I'm ending here with a good portfolio tells a story. Tell the world yours. Now, obviously, this is important. Storytelling is inherent in trying to make sure that whoever's interviewing you, whoever's looking at your work, gets a good reason to hold on to you, to want you to be part of the institution. At ASD, we find it very important that you tell us a story, because everyone is unique. Everyone's lived a life. Everyone has a journey. But if you don't tell us what it is, how do we know it? Momita, if you'd like to, we'd easily just go into a couple of questions which I'd like to answer before we move on to the next part. I know we're already running a little bit late, but there are several questions which I feel are important for us to understand. To begin with, there's a lot of questions to scroll through, but I'll do my best. We do have some questions regarding the admissions to ISD as well. I'd like to take care of those first and then jump back into the portfolio because there are several of them. For those of you who are looking to apply to ISD, please do head to our website, isd.in. There is an admissions page there where you will find all the information you're looking for, which includes dates, applications, forms, pretty much anything you can think of. If there's something that you cannot find that you need the answer to, just reach out to us using the links, using the email IDs and the numbers present on the website. You will get a call from a counselor as well who you can speak to and get all your answers sorted out. There are a few questions from some of you about fashion and about portfolios with regards to animation as well. I'd like to start with those. The first one being that if you're aiming for a portfolio in animation, If you do have a show reel, if you do have examples of animation that you've done, we'd love to see those. Those are very important for us to gauge where you are at in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your experience, in terms of what you've experimented with. And like I said, it's best if you host it either on a Google platform, like perhaps YouTube, or a Drive folder, or even Vimeo, or any of those websites where you can upload content. You can leave them as unlisted and just share the link directly with us, and we'll be able to take a look at it. For those of you who are looking at fashion, please do ensure that whatever you're attaching tells a story of your love for fashion, your experience with fashion, perhaps a personal project that you have done where you might have stitched something for yourself, upcycled something. It's important for us to get to know your understanding of things like sustainability. Right? As we go forward past 2020 into a world that is already thrown into chaos, we want to look forward to a future where we're looking after our planet, where we're being sustainable and we're being conscious of what we're doing. So if you can show us that through your portfolio, it's always a win. We do have another question here.
Jay.
Yes, go ahead.
One question on portfolio. What kind of skills do you need for a portfolio?
Well, like I mentioned, the only real skills you need to build your portfolio is an ability to know yourself, to be able to tell your story, and a bit of organization skills, where you can figure out how to classify your work, put it into a good set of orders, moving things around, and kind of arranging them in such a way that your skills and abilities as an artist or a designer are very visible. The more details you can do with your note making before you put together your portfolio, the better you will be at making your portfolio. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're aiming to apply to ISD and you're aiming for or are hopeful to take on strategic design management, then we'd like to see pieces that reflect your ability to think analytically, to think creatively and organizationally. Perhaps it might have been an event you organized in school that you had a hand in. If you can build a slide that talks about your role in that event, what it is that you produced as collateral or the planning that you did, fantastic, tells us a lot. If you were part of a MUN or if you were part of a student youth engagement, show us that. It tells us a lot about what you can do and what your engagement is. Now, one thing that I want to mention very specifically, separate from all of these academic things and these pictures and paintings and all these things, is because we want to get to know the kind of person you are. If there is perhaps an iconic trip that you went on, perhaps as a trek or a youth group journey, something that really was transformational for you, and you have good photographs, absolutely, good photographs from it. Places perhaps that you might have gone where you engage with other human beings for the benefit of you and them, or skills that you might have picked up, those are excellent to put in. It does give us a great shout out. Just today, I was in an interview with someone who put together in her portfolio a trip that she went on to the mountains, and what she learned over there was survival skills. And so she included that and put a note over there that said, the reason I've included this is because I believe that the survival skills I've learned will help me be more empathic towards people in strife. And therefore I will be able to design better for them. So that's a really, really good way to tell us who you are, to tell us what you can do, and the kind of skills you might have picked up. You never know, right?
So just taking on from there, she's a keyboard player and she has a YouTube channel. So how does she add this aspect of her personality to the portfolio?
So fantastic question. And it's always lovely to see people who engage with music and who show their talents off. At SD, we love performers, we love creative individuals, and we celebrate those talents on campus as well, or in school as well. The way you can do that is create a slide that talks about your YouTube channel, something that you've set up, because believe me, I know how difficult it is to maintain one. It is a process. It does take a lot of design thinking to put it together. So if you can maybe give us a gist of your channel on that slide and have a clickable link on it, then it's a great way for us to access it, to open it up, to get a quick peek into what you do, what your talents are, how well you play, what kind of music you write, perhaps. If there is a live performance you did with some of your music that's not on your YouTube channel, you could embed a video, that would be good, but it just increases the size of your portfolio unnecessarily. The best idea would be just attach a couple of links over there for us to click through.
Great, great. So I have another very interesting question. Somebody who is inspired by nature, unfortunately anonymous attendee. So she says, is it okay if my portfolio talks about only one particular subject or aspect, like nature? Can it have a theme?
It absolutely can. It most certainly can. If that's the theme you're going for and that's the story you'd like to tell with your portfolio, then by all means, just try to make sure that whatever you're putting in with regards to that theme is as varied as possible. If you're only going to put in acrylic paintings throughout, then that gives us a very, very minutely limited view of who you are. If you've written poetry, if you've done sketches, drawings, made perhaps models or paper cutouts or something, try and include those as well. It'll give us a good sensibility of your making skills as well as your thinking skills.
Okay, another anonymous attendee asks, do colleges appreciate messy sketches and figures? What's messy? Messy is art.
Well, okay, so here's the way to look at it. When we talk about messy sketches, that's fine if you're putting them in context towards a finished product. If it's just loose sketches, it doesn't always give us the best perspective. So if you can put it into context regarding a project or an exploration that you did with a write-up, that will work. But for the most part, people want to see an organized telling of information. So it's best to kind of give us a vision of where you started and where you ended with that series of sketches. It doesn't need to be the most perfect finished drawing, because obviously a sketch is not a drawing. So if you can include it that way, great. It absolutely works.
So while we're at the topic of drawing, somebody's asking, how much is the drawing part judged in a portfolio? I have many ideas, but my execution is not that good. Pinterest is not me.
Okay, fantastic question. It's a fantastic question to actually put into play. Drawing is one of the skills we look for. You must remember, everyone, that you're applying to design school, where you will learn how to draw as well. So if your execution is not the greatest, that's okay. We want to see what you can do and where you are at, so we can understand how to help you learn in design school when you're with us. What is more important is the idea you present. All right, so make sure that with the drawing that you have there, whatever level of execution is your best, make sure you write the concept behind it. We do realize that some people think better than they draw. And the whole point of artistic drawing, of fine art drawing, and design drawing are two very different things. With fine art drawing, you're looking to actually represent the thing in its pristine condition, the way it's meant to be, or perhaps just explore or express a certain thing. But it has to be accurate to a certain extent. When it comes to design drawing, accuracy is key, of course, in terms of communicating the concept.
Okay.
So even if you're not the greatest and cleanest with your lines, that's what design school does. I teach drawing in SD. And believe me, we have students who come in who have never even picked up a pencil before design school, because they've just not been confident about it. We transform you. We give you the skills and abilities to say, you know what, going forward, I will be able to illustrate my ideas and get them out there so a person understands what they're looking at. And of course, through the remaining 3 years at SD, you improve. The more you practice, the better you get. And that's what we're here for.
Which is why I see a lot of comments on the chat, on the Q&A section, asking for a session with you. So please stick around. You will know there will be more communication coming to you from our team, where we will get Professor Jay to talk about more on his drawing and sketching. I have a very interesting question from Aditi. And this is the last question. I'm sorry, guys, we are really overshot time. But Aditi has a very relevant question. She's like, I'm not sure about which design field. What do I do about that in my portfolio if I'm not clear which discipline now?
Fantastic.
That's the last question.
So there's also one more I'd like to add on to that, which is which field of designing would give more opportunities in the future. Now, to tackle both of these together makes sense, because number one is it's good to be unsure at this stage. All right. When you're going into a design school, especially ISD, our first year studies are designed in such a way that you get to explore all the different types of design and get to really understand what it is you want to do firsthand. Not just from a website, not just from looking at what somebody's done online, but actually doing it yourself. Our courses are such that you really get a hands-on experience. You get to understand what it is you're learning, what the context of it is, and you get to explore everything from communication design to strategic design management to fashion design to product design, interior design, all of these things. Now, to think about what the future of the design fields are, um, all of them have an equitable distribution of opportunities. Because as a designer, you don't simply find opportunities and fill them. You create opportunities, right? And that's what design school will help you do. It'll help you identify what it is you can do, why you want to do it, and who you want to do it for. There's a question that I usually ask people when they're thinking of design, which is, if you're presented with two opportunities, right? You work for an agency, let's just say, or you work for a studio, and your boss comes to you and says, well, we have a client who is willing to pay us a lot of money to do this job for them, sorry, but you only have 2 days to do the job. Yeah, which means you're not sleeping for the next 48 hours. Okay, and the other option is you have 3 months to do work for a social group, for a social cause, okay, but it's going to give us no money. Which one do you pick?
Wow.
Now, there's opportunities in both.
Yeah.
And here's the way that you make the compromise to use one to do the other. Where you say, okay, I will begin my work with the social group. As soon as I'm done doing this 48-hour marathon, but I will put no compromises into the work. So what the client must agree to is that whatever we deliver in those 48 hours, they must accept.
They have to accept it.
So if you can make the statement, if you can make the stage yours, the opportunities are endless. It doesn't matter what design field you're in. There was a question earlier about what is the future, what is the scope of fashion communication and styling? It's massive. Just because we're living in the COVID age today does not mean that we're not going to go out 5 years down the line when you guys have graduated and we're not going to be wearing clothes or we're not going to want to speak our style out there.
Yeah, yes.
When you are going to graduate 5 years down the line, 4 years down the line, there will be a job waiting for you. And we don't even know what those jobs might be today because everything's changing so dramatically. So at the end of the day, you could go into it saying, you know what, this is what I want to do. This is where it's going to go for me. And along the process, along that journey that you go through in design school, you might realize that there's something entirely different that you want to do with your skills.
Correct.
And I'm one of the best examples of that. Right?
Yes.
I'm a self-taught artist who started working in design almost by accident while being mentored by somebody who is not a designer. She's a fine artist, but she trained as a textile designer. And so I got the best of all these worlds together. And then I realized, you know what, in my school days, I enjoyed teaching. As an artist, I love to teach even more. Why don't I start teaching? So I made sure I had the skills and knowledge to teach, started doing some workshops, and then started building my knowledge base and my experience up to the point where I was teaching in design school. Then I went and said, you know what, I need a change. So I'll teach young children. So I started teaching children. And because of all the innovation I had learned over time, I could innovate a brand new curriculum for them and do it in a brand new way. Now, how did I get hired there? Through my portfolio of work. I showcased all the different things through a journey profile.
Yeah, wow.
And because I explained the context of everything with each artwork or with each photograph, they said, come join us.
Brilliant.
Today, 11 years later, right? I'm at ISD and I'm teaching you guys how to build a portfolio.
Yay. We're so glad you're here. We're so very glad you're here. And we'll get more of you eventually.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Jay. Thank you, audience. We are 20 minutes overshot our time, but still, thank you for sticking around. I hope this has been an enlightening experience for you. There are a lot of questions which remain unanswered. We will try our best to send out answers to all of your questions in the best possible manner. We have your email addresses. And here's the first surprise. This journey of discovering design doesn't end here. Dialogue on Design 2021, the lineup is already here. So all those fashionistas who did not get to hear too many fashion-related words, the first one, Fashion Design and Communication Dialogues on Design, is on 8th January, followed by Communication Design for all my graphic design, UI, UX aficionados. Product Design, Strategic Design Management is on 22nd. And finally, last but not the least, Interior Design is on 29th. So you can see the entire month of January is our first surprise. Meet and interact with the masterminds of design. The links are already up on the ISDI website. Log on right now and register yourself. Because of course the seats are limited, as always. As every good thing in life, seats are limited. Now, can I just see the second surprise? I'm sure a lot of you are waiting for this. Doodle art competition. We got such an amazing response to this. What creativity, guys. But of course, we had to choose a few winners. So Tanvi Salpekar from Bhavans Vidya Mandir, Nagpur. If you are here, you, congratulations for winning the Doodle art competition. We also have Devansh Kumar Singh, Central Academy, Lucknow, a grade 12 student. Khushi Mahajan from Bharat English School and Junior College, Pune, again, grade 12. Tejaswini Singh, Yashodham Junior College, Mumbai Chimulgi. Thank you so much for participating. You've also won the Doodle art competition. Arna Majumdar from Symbiosis Institute of Technology, another Mumbai girl who has also won the Doodle art competition. These are the top 5 students. But nonetheless, every art piece that we received on our competition portal was brilliant. It was great. Thank you so much for participating. That's about it from my side, but we'll see you in January. The first one is on 6th Jan, International at ISDI. So many of your questions still remain unanswered. So please, please sign up for International at ISDI. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's been a wonderful experience for all of us here. And we look forward to interacting with you more. You have our email addresses, you have our contact details. Please reach out to us for any kind of question answers that you have. Thank you so much, Edmin, Imran. Thank you, Krish. Thank you, Abhyuday. The entire team at ISDI wishes everyone a very good evening and a wonderful weekend ahead. That's about it from